Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories, where today, Karen, my wife's friend, tried to cheat with me while my wife was out of town. Should I tell her what happened? My wife and I have been married for 11 years. We've been happy, and my wife is awesome. She's been friends with Beth for at least 8 years. They also work together. Beth and I have always been on friendly terms, hovering on friends. Never any awkwardness. She's been a regular in our lives for a long time. Recently, my wife was out of town for a few days. I was out for groceries, and I found Beth in one of the aisles. We ended up chatting and shopping together for about 20 minutes, just banter. We were about to go our separate ways in the parking lot. She asked me what I was doing later. I said messing around in the garage. If you want any company, I can drop my groceries off and swing by. I said something like, nah, I'm fine, just me and the dogs, not really thinking about it. I pause, then she said, oh yeah, forgot she's out of town. I'll see you around then. Beth sent me a couple of texts later that night about a show that she thought I would like. I said, I'll check it out, thanks. About 10 minutes later, she sent, what are you doing up? I didn't respond. It was feeling off. We've never texted each other unless there was a reason. I doubt she forgot my wife was out of town because A, they're close friends, B, they work together, and my wife hadn't been to work in 2 days, and C, if you want any company. So I'm assuming she knew I would be alone. We've never hung out without my wife, but we're going to now that she's several states away? Was it an innocent gesture that she stepped back from when she realized it might be crossing a line? Fast forward to a barbecue at my house about a week ago. She mostly stuck with my wife and sister-in-law all evening. Anytime I was around, she went quiet and she barely acknowledged me. She left towards the end of the night and walked by me without saying a word. I'm conflicted on whether I should bring this up to my wife or not. If one of my friends had the same interaction with my wife while I were out of town, I'd want to know about it. On the other hand, what if I'm wrong and I cause a falling out that doesn't need to happen? My main argument for the latter is this. I knew Beth's ex-husband back in the day and her 2 serious partners in the years since then. She has a distinctive type of guy that she always goes for, and it definitely doesn't fit my profile. Part of me wants to push it to the side and let it blow over. Keep your mouth shut. No way this doesn't blow up if you bring it up. If wife brings it up, say you didn't think it was important. How much do you love drama? She took her shot, it missed, now she's embarrassed. Personally, I'd leave it alone unless she keeps after you. No harm, no foul. Let it lie. I don't see any lines crossed. She asked to hang out, you said no, that was it. It's a stretch to then interpret her later not being social as a sign that her asking to hang out was an attempt to hook up with you. It would be different if she was flirting or giving you compliments or otherwise demonstrating some interest in you, but as it stands, I see nothing wrong. I'd pretend it never happened myself. If you bring this up to your wife, no question their friendship is over. Even if Beth was fishing, which is debatable since everything you mentioned is circumstantial, you didn't take the bait, so this is a nothing burger. You have no idea what's going on in her life right now. This could have just been a moment of weakness for her, and if it was, it would really suck for her to lose a good friend because of something else that was going on in her life and she had a momentary lapse of judgment. I agree. OP needs to let this die and let the woman move on from what could have been someone who was desperate for a friend or socialization. OP did the right thing by not following through on any of her requests, and honestly, this was a great example of how these situations should be handled. Tell your wife, brother. You as a man would definitely want to know if a friend of yours was trying to hang out with your wife while you were out of town or texting her late at night asking why she was still up. So give your wife that same level of respect and tell her about what her friend tried to do and she can make the call. I'm always amazed at how unintelligent most of these commenters are, telling you to act like this never happened. No wonder there are so many new stories on here every day about relationships gone wrong. These people have no clue how to actually act in a relationship. And just for kicks, imagine if the roles were reversed and the husband's friend was the one trying to cheat with the wife while he was out of town. You Redditors would be singing a very different song. Well, what would you do if you were OP? Would you tell your wife about her friend or not? Please let us know. I know last commenter got massively downvoted, but I loved that part he said about no wonder there's so many relationship stories on Reddit. Do these people even have brains? NPCs don't have brains, Karen. Am I the jerk for not telling anyone that I became a millionaire this year? I'm 33, male. I've been self-employed for 10 years this year. I also started an LLC about 7 years ago. So far this year, I've made more money than the last 10 years combined. I grew up very poor, and my mom passed away when I was just 10. After my mom passed, I was raised by my grandmother. I told her about 2 years ago that I would be a millionaire before she leaves this earth, and she said not to tell anyone if I did. I haven't made any major purchases since I recently became a millionaire, but I'm always nice to people close to me, and 90% of the time, I'll pick up the tab if I go out with friends or family. So my question is this: am I the jerk for not telling anyone, including my wife, about it so far? Update. First, let me address those saying this is a humble brag or something of that sort. I know myself well, and I'm the last person to ever want to seek validation, especially on the internet. I made this post out of curiosity to see if it's worth sharing this information and to hopefully inspire others who might have dreams of starting or currently running a small business. Again, I would like to humbly state that this post is not to brag, but definitely to inspire. I'm surprised my post got so many questions, almost 2,000 comments. I'll answer some of the most frequent questions since it would take so much of my time to answer them individually. Why haven't you told your wife? For the women in the comments section saying I'm the jerk for not telling her yet, these comments made me appreciate my wife even more because she didn't marry me for money. I noticed most of these comments are geared towards a transactional marriage. I didn't say I was opposed to letting her know. I said I haven't told anyone as of yet. I've made 6 figures per year most years for the past few years, so it's not like I'm hiding that. Last year we made around $270K, and she was super excited about that until she found out how much we owed in taxes. That was only because we didn't prepay enough money, and we have enough taxes from our W-2 income since our tax bracket got significantly higher than the previous year. So it's not like she doesn't know about me earning 6 figures. She's just as humble as I am, and she doesn't ask for a lot. Her birthday's coming up, and she only asked me for a bag that's less than $200, even knowing that I made all that money before. So yeah, I said that to show how humble she is. With so many people saying she would be upset if I didn't tell her right away. I asked her this today. Would you feel any type of way if I were to become a millionaire and I didn't tell you right away? And would she tell anyone? Her answer was absolutely not, but she would be happy for me and for us because I work so hard. Question: what type of business do you have? Started off by doing business in my name first. A couple of years after it got super profitable, I formed my LLC. It was never always a lot of money. My business kind of fluctuates. In 2013, I made $4,000. 2014, I made $76,000. And after that, it was like a roller coaster. I first started off by making YouTube videos. 6 years later, after my income slowed down, I transitioned to e-commerce and tried to dropship via various platforms, but it didn't work for me until I tried selling on Amazon. A few years after that, I got into music production and I started to ghost produce and release music that got a lot of streams. Please note, I have nothing to sell you here. I'm just sharing my story, and I hope that I'll be able to inspire and motivate anyone who needs to hear this. I must also note that everything I'm doing now, I've learned it for free on YouTube. Remember, people will always try to sell you stuff when you watch their video. Be smart and try to be curious and figure stuff out on your own. Everything I've listed here is a passion of mine that I was always curious about. I never got bored when trying them out. Question: 1 million is like 100,000 back in the late 90s. Do you have 1 million? So far this year, I'm estimated to make 1.9 to 2.1 million by the end of the year. Question: do you spend a lot of money? I don't spend a lot, but we go on vacation once or twice a year. On average, I'd say I spend about 5% of my income monthly. My car's paid off, and my wife's car is paid off as well. Your grandmother was a smart woman. Keep on being cheap, totally. But do tell your wife. You need to consider what being cheap means. You need to be willing to spend money on quality items that will make your life better. Nothing wrong with quality shoes, reliable, safe, comfortable vehicles, and presentable clothes. You need comfortable furniture that won't fall apart. You need a place to live that's not miserably cheap. Please don't keep your wife in the dark. She needs to go with you to an attorney to do estate planning. The two of you need to make a budget and spending plan together. Don't be my ex, who could have been a millionaire, but never met a dollar that he couldn't spend away. I was with you until you said your wife doesn't know. I have trust issues and I like privacy, but I don't want to ever get married because, amongst other things, I know I would be wrong to treat a spouse like that. OP. She doesn't know yet, but I was thinking about surprising her when tax time comes. We file taxes jointly most of the time since we get a lot of tax breaks, so she'll eventually know. She'll get more excited if I don't tell her before she sees it. Tell your wife. Keeping this from her could end your marriage and your status as a millionaire if she leaves you. She's making decisions based on what she thinks your financial situation is, while you're canceling the real situation from her. That's a betrayal. I sure hope you had a prenup in place. Poor people will always be jealous of those of us who have money, but statistics show that once your net worth is over $1 million, your wife is 8 times more likely to divorce you. That's what happened to me, both of my brothers, and several friends who had high net worths. The marriage sort of switches from we're a team and depend on each other to more of a this guy is loaded and if I leave, I get half of it. Edit. I knew I'd get massively downvoted for stating the obvious. Maybe try reading some finance management books instead of watching animes. Have fun making my Big Macs, you dumb kids. Well, what would you do if you became a millionaire? Would you tell people or keep it secret? Please let us know. Rule number 1 of having lots of money. Never tell people you have lots of money. Especially your spouse. Unless you want to deal with the in-laws demanding money from you. Well, you know what they say, Karen. That money that you work so hard for belongs to you and your spouse. I know that's what they say, I just don't like it. My fiancé wants me to get rid of my backup plan for in case our marriage fails, plus final updates. I've always had a backup plan. My backup plan includes a place to live, money for general expenses, and a rainy day fund. It's more complicated than that, but this is the gist of it. I like having it, and I've explained to previous partners that I have one, and I let them decide if they're okay with it. My fiancé knew this before he started dating me exclusively. He knew that if we ever got married, I would require a prenuptial agreement and a request that this backup plan stays intact. A couple of days ago, he told me he wasn't okay with this plan any longer. I don't think that's fair. He comes from a wealthy family, and the prenuptial agreement protects him, and I should have something that protects me. I'm actually finding myself really angry about this because I was an open book about this every step of the way, and now I feel like he's changed his mind. He says that having this plan makes it seem like I will leave him while I think it protects me. I'm annoyed because it's not fair to me to change your mind when you knew my expectations from the very beginning. Edit. I put this post up because I was annoyed that he essentially told me this on Friday, minutes before our meeting with the lawyers. I was and am annoyed, but he follows my Reddit account, so throw away. I don't tell every person about this plan, only ones that I've gotten serious with, which is a grand total of 2. The backup plan is complicated, but it doesn't do him over in any way. It protects me, and I would be paying for the property and still contributing the same amount that he would be to our household expenses and savings. Now that he knows what the plan entails in depth, he wants to just not sign anything on both sides. This is a bad idea. I would be unprotected, but so would he, and he has way more than I do. He feels like I have one foot out the door. I don't. I love him, but my dad is a divorce lawyer, and from what I've heard and seen, better to protect yourself and not need it than no protection and then have to pick up the pieces. Both of our parents agree that a prenuptial is needed. I'm not getting rid of this plan. There's not anything that would make me compromise about this. I told him he has a decision to make because I'm not changing my mind. Yes, I told him about this post as more people have seen it. Rather, he finds out about it from me than someone else, or just being on Reddit. Update. I understand his perspective now, and he understands mine. It never crossed our minds to break up, and I think we both needed some time to think. I understand this is Reddit, but please don't bash my partner. I understand I was vague, but to call him names and try to tear down his character when you don't know him is not okay. I also don't know why I'm clarifying things. It's honestly a little therapeutic. To clarify some things about my backup plan, I called it that because I started it at 25. I have had it for about 10 years now. I'm in my mid-30s. It's an emergency savings account, another savings account, and a property I own. I use my main job to pay for my household expenses with my fiancé and also to fill my main savings. I have a trust, but also investments as well, but my dad helps me handle those. The emergency savings is only money from additional contract jobs I take on in my profession. The other savings account is only money from rental income, some of which I use to maintain the property and pay my dad back. The property is a multi-family home, and I rent out all of the units but one. The property was bought by my dad when I was 24, and I've been paying him back the purchase price with no interest for a couple of years now. The property is worth a great amount now, but my dad would only accept what he paid for it from me. He took out a loan for me because he wanted me to be set up financially. I'm paying him back, even though he already paid the loan off a long time ago. There's no way I would be able to buy that property now, or even 5 years ago, since house prices have skyrocketed where I live, and I'm grateful that my dad did that for me. I will finally pay off the loan in about 8 months and before I get married. It's taken me so long to pay my dad back because he insisted that I prioritize setting myself up financially rather than paying him back. The property is also a 15-minute walk to the nearest hospital and close to the city center, so it's easy to rent out to medical students. I keep one unit open because of events. I make a lot when there are events or when big artists tour, and two examples are the recent Beyonce and Taylor Swift tours. If there are no events that I can think of, I rent it out to travel nurses in 3 or 4 month periods once or twice a year. Overall though, I make a substantial amount from this property. I can't take credit for this strategy because my dad is the one who helped me set it up. My partner and I come from vastly different economic backgrounds. His family has generational wealth, and he can't remember a time they didn't. I grew up firmly middle class until my parents divorced, and then it was a struggle for a while. His home life was relatively stable with a mom and a dad. On the other hand, my dad tried his best, but my birth mom made my childhood tumultuous, both emotionally and mentally. The difference with how we think about money became very noticeable when we were planning our wedding. We had been discussing what type of flowers we would like, and then I started talking about my budget and stated that I thought $30,000 to $40,000 was good overall to pay for a wedding and an amount where we could easily afford it. He thought I meant $30,000 to $40,000 for flowers, and he and his parents didn't budge at that amount and just said okay. I clarified what I meant, and I would never ever pay that amount for just flowers. When it comes to the plan, my fiancé knew about it as soon as we were exclusive. I don't agree with people saying I shouldn't have told him. To protect my assets in the prenuptial agreement, I had to. I also told him because I felt he deserved to know. As we got more serious, especially with marriage, I told him more after talking to my dad and finding out what was okay to say so that he understood the extent of the plan. I know this is a very small aspect of the overall story, but $30,000 to $40,000 for flowers for a wedding? How rich is his family? Looking at the details, OP is upper class, probably close to the top 1%, but not there yet. She owns a multi-million-dollar property, has a trust fund, etc. Her boyfriend is so rich compared to her, she considered herself solidly middle class. So think $10 million mansion, driving expensive sport cars, never needing to work, $100 million in assets from his parents. She keeps calling herself poor or middle class, and I'm like, your dad bought you an apartment complex. I know this isn't really the point of this post, but I love how rich people will consider themselves middle class when they own multi-million-dollar properties, multiple properties, large bank accounts, huge investment and retirement portfolios, etc. Like, I'm sure her parents' divorce was tough on her, but I'm highly doubting she struggled at all growing up post-divorce. Am I the jerk for telling my sister I won't be helping her with her second unplanned baby? My sister is an idiot. She had my niece when she was 19. She dropped out of college, but didn't want to ruin her boyfriend's life, so she never went after him for child support. The truth was that it wasn't his baby, and she's not sure who the father actually was. I'm a fair bit older than her, and I make a good living, so I helped her out with money and free babysitting, that sort of thing. My niece is 5 years old now, and she's basically a bonus kid for my family. Even my husband's family has sort of adopted her as one of our own. My sister just told me she's pregnant again. She hasn't mentioned a boyfriend, so I asked her what her relationship with the father was like. She said it was a Tinder guy and that he ditched his profile after she told him. I asked her what she was planning on doing. She said that she was having the baby. I told her that was great and I hoped that everything would work out for her. I added that I would not be giving her money to support her new baby and that I would not be babysitting for her. I'm back to work and I don't have that freedom anymore. I said that we would continue to help support my niece, but that was it, and that if she chose to use the help we were giving her for my niece for the new kid, we would have to stop helping at all. She lost it. She said that I'm judging her and how she chooses to live her life. I'm not. She can do whatever she wants, but she has no right to expect my husband and I to pick up the slack from her refusal to be a responsible person. It didn't take long for our mother to call me to go off on me for saying what I said to my sister. I asked her how much money she had given my sister for my niece and how much she was going to give her for the new kid. I said I would give my sister the same amount of money my mother gave me for each of my kids, the cost of a onesie from Walmart. She said I was a terrible daughter and sister for saying what I said. She said that if she had had more money, she would have given us more. I said she could sell her house up north now that she lives in Florida to help support my sister if she's really running out of money. She isn't. My dad left her well set up when he passed. OP didn't just buy a few onesies for her first niece. Believing the unplanned pregnancy with an unknown father was a once-in-a-lifetime event, she provided an extraordinary level of support. She contributed significant emotional, practical, and financial support. She's not in a position to do it all a second time. Being generous for the first kid does not oblige OP to do the same thing for the second. Better OP should tell her sister what to expect before the baby is born so she can plan accordingly. When someone is planning their life using magical thinking, you can't deliver bad news kindly. It's just ignored or dismissed. I'm afraid that if OP were less blunt, her sister would believe OP could be persuaded to change her mind. Not the jerk. Overall, not the jerk, but your point about only helping your older niece doesn't really make any sense. If you care about this kid, why would it bother you to see your money also going to help your other niece or nephew as well? You can choose whether or not to give your sister money, and you can choose how much you're comfortable giving, but specifically saying it should only go to one kid is strange. You're the jerk. You don't need to help, but it's entirely messed up to plan to support one of your nieces but not the new niece or nephew. Just stop giving money at that point, because that would only cause a ton of issues. You're the jerk for planning to treat the kids differently. Their mother's choices are not their fault. Giving nothing is absolutely reasonable, but it isn't okay to give things to the older one and let the younger one watch. How absolutely horrible and cruel. Well, what would you do in this situation? Would you keep giving her money for her second baby too, or not? Please let us know. Alright, who's ready to place some bets on how long it takes for baby number 3 to show up? Am I the jerk for not letting my girlfriend crash at my place while she finds a new apartment? My girlfriend and I have been together for a little under 2 years now. Things have been going well, I think. Her roommate has moved out of state, and now my girlfriend needs a place to stay temporarily. We both work and live in a fairly large city, and it's not easy to find affordable arrangements. My place is pretty spacious, yes. However, it's just not suitable for anything more than one person. My uncle gave me this loft and the 50% of assets he didn't donate to charity, and was a bachelor all of his life, which is definitely how the space is intended to be used. If I had to pay for a similar space in this part of the city, it would cost $5,000 to $6,000 a month in rent, which is about 1/3 of my pre-tax pay, so I definitely don't want to move anytime soon. If you don't know what a loft is, my bedroom is on another floor from the living room and kitchen area, but there's no physical wall between them. This means you can literally hear everything. Great for living by myself, not tolerable with anyone else long term. That would mean I can't play on my PC in the bedroom late at night or watch TV in the living room. If you wake up in the middle of the night and want a quesadilla, you can definitely smell what's being cooked in the kitchen and hear the blower. There's also very little privacy anywhere besides the bathroom. I'm sure there are some entire families living in arrangements like this, but there are also families living in huts or closet apartments in Hong Kong. My girlfriend would have to commute 70 to 80 minutes to get here from her parents' house. However, she assured me that she would only need 3 months to find a place, so it's not as if that would be a long-term situation. There's plenty of people who commute every day. It's no big deal. I really don't think she has any reason to be so upset with me about not wanting to let her move in. Am I the jerk? You're the jerk for a specific reason. The fact that you care more about not being able to play video games at night than the fact that your girlfriend has to find a place to live temporarily says everything I need to know. You're the jerk. We get it. You aren't really into your girlfriend and don't care if she has to commute over an hour every morning and evening, so long as you can play games at night. Why haven't you broken up with her already? You clearly have no intentions of ever marrying her or moving in with her. You're just stringing her along. You're the jerk. Do you love this person and see a future with them someday? Or is she just a hookup buddy to you? If you love her, I can't imagine how you'd think it's okay to be so callous in her moment of need. If you don't love her or see a real future with her, maybe it's time to sit down and have a talk so she can decide if she's cool with that or she can move on to someone who does. The inconveniences you list pale in comparison to that of a long commute. You think it's reasonable for her to spend over 2 hours a day driving so you don't have to wear headphones at night when you watch TV? You might smell and hear cooking noises. Oh, the humanity. Are you going to be the type to get mad that she never has time to see you now that she has such a long commute? Then dump her for not being available. Everything you list is something you could work around for 3 months. I shared a loft with a boyfriend in college, and it's not the end of the world. Not the jerk. Why is it that when a boyfriend demands to move in with his girlfriend, you all flip out on him and tell her to break up with him? But now that girlfriend is the one demanding to live with OP, he's the bad guy for not letting her. Another day, another double standard on Reddit. Don't let her move in with you. If you do, good luck with the eviction process you'll eventually have to use to get rid of her. And for the love of goodness, quit talking crap about dudes who like video games. You act like chicks scrolling through TikTok videos all day is somehow more productive. At least video games exercise your mind. They're actually really good for older people struggling with dementia, while TikTok just rots your brain. Come to think of it, maybe TikTok is what made most of you so dumb. My Karen neighbors and the cops are demanding to use my driveway. Going to begin by saying that legally I am in the clear. It's my property and I can do as I wish with it. I bought a piece of land and had a house built on it recently. There was a gravel road, now it's paved, that has become my driveway. I guess before I lived there, the locals used it to get around faster. I've been told that if they can't use my driveway, it makes the travel 15 minutes longer. This started when I moved in. The stuff like the yard and surrounding area was not finished, but it was complete enough to move in. My driveway is long and can be exited and entered from two sides. With how the house is built, for them to use my driveway as a shortcut, a lot of traffic would have to pass right by my house and cars every day. This isn't just people driving. People on bikes and walkers want to use it too. I simply do not want the whole town using my driveway every day. I realized it was a problem when I moved in and I could constantly hear cars driving through all hours of the night, or voices of people talking and people walking right past the cars. I understood that this property was vacant for a while, so I put up signs saying that this is private property. You can clearly see a house there, and I'm sure they saw it being built. No change. So I put up gates that only my wife and I have access to. It doesn't deter the walkers, but I have plans for that. This caused a big fuss. I've had numerous people knock on my door asking why I put a gate up, saying they will be late to school or work. I had a guy say I made him late to an interview. I just tell everyone that this is private property and that this house didn't just appear here. You saw the signs if this was a route that you use daily. Apparently, the police used this as a speed trap area, and I've had police ask me to open the gates. I tell them no. My wife normally is the type to let people use the driveway, but this wasn't normal. Imagine the whole town using it like a shortcut. There was so much traffic constantly. The first complaint I got before the gates were up was when I parked my car on the driveway and not on the part in front of my house because it was blocking the traffic. I responded, "The traffic on my property?" I've had cops tell me I'm obstructing their work. My direct neighbors understand, but town people are just upset that their shortcut is gone. They're all pretty upset about the house being here altogether. People would park their cars all over the driveway and my property during sporting events. High school football is important around here. I'm not trying to be an evil neighbor. Am I the jerk? Edit. For those wondering, yes, I've talked to lawyers and this is my property. I initially didn't want the two outlets because to me it looks odd. I only have one entrance to my driveway paved and the other one is gravel. I was just going to leave it, but now I will just remove the outlet entirely. My land is still under construction and there will be a fence going completely around my property. Not the jerk. It's your property and they can't use it anymore. They will just have to get used to going the long way around. If the locals wanted this road so much, then they should have had their town purchase the land and made it a public road. They didn't. Now they have to deal with it. Not the jerk. It's your home and your property. Seriously, building a home takes time. They should have realized things were changing. And the cops don't need to use your property as a speed trap. You're the jerk. This is why I disagree with the concept of private property. Because you want to make people's lives more difficult than they already are, you're trying to stop them from using a road that they've used since long before you arrived. Why can't you just be cool and respect that this is a helpful road to everyone? Except the police. I wouldn't let them use it either. I make their lives harder anytime I can because we just don't need them at all. But that's another story. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or everyone else? Please let us know. Whenever you have trouble with people using your driveway and you want them to stop, nails can really come in handy. My husband ate some of my chocolate, so I made him drive across the city to replace it. I'm 8.5 months pregnant and driving sucks, so my mom drives me around because my husband is working long hours to get ahead before the baby comes. Last month, she drove me to my favorite chocolate store and I stocked up on my favorite flavors. The store has dozens of flavors of chocolate individually wrapped in colorful foil, so you can tell the flavor. The store is about an hour's drive away from our home. My husband knows my favorite flavor. Half the bag was originally that flavor, but by now, it's just even with the others. He came home from work yesterday, and after supper, we were going to sit and watch TV. I waddled over to the couch and asked him to please bring me 2 of my chocolates. He did, and he grabbed a few for himself. No problem there. He came back to the couch with chocolates in his mouth. When he kissed me, I knew what flavor he took. He admitted he took the stracciatella ones, my favorite. I got kind of upset, and he said it was no big deal. I could go with my mom and get some more. Yes, this company sells their chocolate everywhere, but that flavor, I've only ever seen this flavor in their store. I asked if he's been eating that flavor a lot, and his face told me everything I needed to know. I yelled at him that it's not like it's easy for me to sit in a car for 2 hours. He said he would go out right now and replace them. He hit a couple of stores and a couple of grocery stores, and they all told him the same thing. He drove across town and came back with a big bag of just that flavor. While he was gone, I called my mom, and she said I need to calm down because my hormones are making me crazy. I apologized to my husband, but he's still grumpy that he drove around for hours just to get me chocolate. I think he should know better than to eat my favorite flavor. I know this isn't as big a problem as some of the other stuff on here. Edit. My husband is wonderful, and he went out looking to replace my chocolate. After he didn't find it nearby, he chose to drive across town. I didn't force him to do it. When I said I made him do it, I meant he did it to make me happy. Sorry for any confusion. I clearly recall sobbing during my first pregnancy over a brand of potato chips that was discontinued, and my husband came home with an unsuitable, to me, replacement. It was ridiculous, and years later, we laugh about it. So will you. Best wishes for a smooth birth and a healthy baby. I vividly remember when I was pregnant with my son, ordering Hawaiian barbecue from a local restaurant, specifically the teriyaki beef. My partner went to pick it up, and they had forgotten to include the teriyaki sauce that comes on the side, but it also is what makes it so delicious. And, teriyaki. I cried hysterically and couldn't even rationalize why I was so upset. My partner, bless him, drove back to the store and came back with boatloads of teriyaki sauce. I'm not proud of that moment, in hindsight, but pregnancy really does make you a bit nuts, and food cravings are no joke. Not the jerk. In a year, you will both be laughing about this. This is the real marriage stuff no one talks about. You're a team. You're hormonal and pregnant. He went and got your special chocolate. I'd probably just start cracking jokes about it and say sorry for being a bit extra. You're the jerk. Wife yells at her husband. Haha, this is funny. Husband yells at wife. He's a monster. You need to divorce him. You deserve so much better. Wife says she made her husband do something or allowed him to do something. Nobody bats an eye. Husband says this kind of stuff. Everyone loses their mind. Reddit in a nutshell. P.S. Being pregnant doesn't excuse you for acting like a total jerk. I'm so sick of hearing that it does. P.P.S. For all you geniuses who are upset by my comment, I'm a woman now in my 60s. I've had 3 pregnancies throughout my life and never felt the need to act like a jerk to anyone because I was pregnant. Sure, there were days where I felt horrible, but I never took that out on my husband or anyone else. Just because you don't feel good does not excuse you to mistreat others. I'd love to see how you bozos react to a story where the husband is sick and he's the one treating people like crap. Karen mother steals my car, now I'm suing her. I, 24 male, live with my mom in a rural part of the USA. For context, when it comes to my sister, 37, she's much older and we come from different fathers, and we grew up in split custody arrangements. We are not particularly close, almost acquaintances more so than siblings. I don't really feel any family connection, even though I love her. I don't feel obligated to bend over backwards for her. Well, sister lives 2 hours away, in a much more urban area, and is currently going through a divorce. Her and her ex-husband only had one vehicle, and it belongs to the ex-husband, so when they split, he took the car. Sister has 4 daughters and works a full-time job. I, on the other hand, work from home, and I have no real external responsibilities. My mom came to me asking if my sister could borrow my car for a couple of months until the divorce is finalized, so she has a way of transporting her and her kids to wherever they need to go without the financial burden of purchasing another car or relying exclusively on ride-sharing. I just recently bought my car, 2012 V8 Mustang, and it's my first vehicle ever. I didn't get a hand-me-down or get one as a present when I turned 16 or 18. I was basically immobile, except occasionally being allowed to drive my mom's car, or when my dad had me, I could get Ubers. Getting my own vehicle was extremely liberating, minus the loan, and I don't feel trapped at home anymore. So when I was approached with this proposal, I flat out said no. I can totally understand the justification for letting her use my car for a couple months, but aside from the fact I don't want to lose my newfound sense of freedom, I also just don't want someone else driving my car, and maybe that's selfish of me. Over the last few days, my mom and sister have been trying to convince me to let her use the car, saying that she would pay me for the car payment while she has the car, or that she'd pay for insurance if she has it longer than anticipated. No matter what they brought to the table, I kept saying no. much to their dissatisfaction. Fast forward to this morning. I realized that my mom isn't home. I opened the garage to see that her car was still there, but mine wasn't. I immediately knew what had happened and I called my mom about the situation. She just tries to calm me down and has me try to picture it from my sister's point of view, but I'm just flushed with rage, and instead, I just tell her that I'm going to report the vehicle as stolen instead. She just hung up the phone. As of now, I presume my car is down with my sister, and I'm seriously considering reporting it stolen and naming her and my sister as perpetrator and conspirator. I really don't want it to go that far, and I hope that we can just work it out instead. But what I initially said as an angry threat, I'm starting to really consider as an option. I just don't know if it's worth burning so many bridges over a car, but the fact that my family won't respect my boundaries or my property is so frustrating. Would I be the jerk? Update. I ended up giving mom and sister an ultimatum to return my car by 5 p.m., and if they didn't, I would be reporting them to the police, and if they did, I would let bygones be bygones and move on and move out. I even offered to pitch in a bit to help my sister get a new vehicle. Car has been returned, so the police will not need to be involved. However, there's body damage that wasn't there the last time I used it. Can't tell if it was intentional damage or not, but it honestly doesn't matter. We'll be getting all relevant papers in order, and then I'll be lawyering up, so the damages will all be paid for. As soon as this entire situation is resolved, I will be moving out. I've learned to never keep my keys out ever again. Thanks so much for the input and advice. To address a few questions that I keep getting asked, Mom has her own car, but doesn't want to lend hers out because she needs it for work every day. I had offered to let her use mine for work and she lend out her car to sister, but she refuted this idea, saying that she doesn't feel comfortable driving my car and that she needs ample space for medical supplies. She's an in-home nurse. I'm well aware that my living situation will change if I call the police on my mom and sister, but honestly, the living situation is already compromised. Regardless of the resolution, I will be moving out as immediately as possible, as soon as I'm financially stable enough to do so. This whole thing is just the straw that broke the camel's back. I've been getting a lot of comments regarding living for free at my mother's house. We split the bill 60-40 on basically everything. It's not truly 50-50, but absolutely by no means am I freeloading at my mom's house. Am I the jerk for not taking in my orphan niece and nephew? Plus updates. My sister, 33, and her husband, 36, passed not long ago, leaving behind their 3 kids, who are 14, 12, and 8. We live in a pretty small town of under 2,000 people, and their passing kind of shocked the community. Everyone's talking about it. Their memorials were up in the grocery store the day after they had passed. Another thing is, everyone is wondering what will happen to their kids, and the expectation seems to be that I will take them in. My circumstances. I'm 23, male. I'm single and have no kids of my own. I have no income and live off student loans while going to university in the next town over, getting my bachelor's. I live in a mobile home in a trailer park. It's a 40-foot trailer, but still only a 1-bedroom. I own it, but I pay rent on the land it's on. My main reason for not wanting to take them in is that I don't want to. I don't want kids of my own, and I don't think I'm in a place to take care of them. I've been told that money has been put aside to help, so I wouldn't be keeping us all alive off my loans. But it's only partly about the money. It's about not having the space they need, interrupting my studies to take care of them, and suddenly becoming the caregiver of 3 humans all on my own. It's a big job that I don't feel I measure up to do. I was posed the question by my parents. They're in a different country and can't help, and the kids want to stay here anyway. Friends of my sister's family all have kids of their own, usually in batches of 2 to 3 themselves, and can't afford to take more on either. They say I should do it because I don't have kids already. It'll be good practice for my future kids. It's my duty to my own flesh and blood. I'm young, the kids need me and don't have anywhere else to go. I told my parents that they can crash on my living room furniture for a while until other arrangements are made for them, but I won't be able to take care of them permanently. My parents think I'm a jerk for refusing to do so. My sister and brother-in-law's friends think I'm a jerk. Even some of my friends think I'm in the wrong. Word has started to spread around town that I'm a jerk. People have come up to me to tell me what they think of me for refusing to take in my nephews and niece. Worse, the kids think I'm a jerk for abandoning them. I've been told horror stories about the foster system and that I'm giving them up to it, that they'll be separated, we'll lose them and never get them back, and that I'm a monster for not doing it, that I'm selfish, they're ashamed of me. My mother told me that if I don't take them, they'll have nothing more to do with me because of how horrified they are. It seems harsh. Part of me feels like I don't deserve to be told these things just because I didn't want to and am not able to take care of these kids. The other part agrees with them. Have I been the jerk in this situation? Edit. I sat down and ran the numbers about my finances, and this is what I came up with for anyone interested. The amount of money left behind to help raise them is 25,000 Canadian dollars, and I think that's around 19,000 US dollars. I don't think it would be possible to raise 3 kids to 18 on that amount, especially not because one of them will be 10 years away. I would need to supplement that with a job, definitely. But I'm 3 years into my bachelor's and have accumulated quite a lot of debt that I would also need to pay off if I stop going to school. As for my student loans, I will break down those finances. After my tuition is paid, I'm left with about 4.8 thousand for the time school is on and the break month in between semesters. My rent for this plot is $550, so of that 4.8 thousand, 2.2 thousand goes to rent every 4 months, leaving me 2.6 thousand to buy food, gas, insurance, etc. All told, I have 7.8K a year to purchase needs. I don't know if this matters, but the poverty line for families with 2 adults and 2 kids is 30K Canadian dollars. Obviously, with 1 adult and 3 kids, still 4 people, at 7.8K to work with is well below poverty. Because of all of that and all of your guys' responses, I have tentatively figured I am not the jerk. My plan going forward will be to try to sit down with the kids, at least the oldest, and talk to him about my finances to hopefully show him that it's not the fact that I don't care about them, but because there's no chance they will have a good life with me as their guardian. I will also tell my parents all about my finances. Hopefully, if they see the resources I have available, they will stop on this crusade to get me to take them in and accept that they will need to step in if they want the kids to stay together. I feel like even if I tried to take them, the government would just take them away anyway. Also, while I was out, someone keyed my car, so I think I'll have to move if people don't calm down. Not the jerk, but it doesn't really matter if the kids want to stay in this country. Being with your parents would be infinitely better than the foster system. Also, where are the other grandparents? OP. The other set of grandparents passed a while ago. You're probably right that it doesn't matter they want to stay here, but it's part of things they're taking into account with this. Everyone sucks here. OP, I'm so sorry for your loss and for this huge responsibility that now rests on your shoulder. You shouldn't have to quit your studies to take care of the kids, but leaving them to the foster system would be awful. They're probably already gone through so much and afraid of what their future has to hold. You didn't ask for this, but neither did the kids. Keep them safe, love them, help them. This is harder on them than it is on you. Update. So, almost a month later, you probably will not be proud, as I'm not proud either, but this is what happened. I withdrew completely from all discussions of the kids unless I was reached out to by someone, usually my parents. Talking to them was pretty hopeless. Some of their favorite talking points were, you can put your school aside and pick it up once they've moved out. It's only 10 years. It doesn't matter that you don't want kids. It's not your choice to make. You're not a man if you don't help raise these kids. It's your responsibility to the kids and to your sister. The kids will go to foster care and be split up, and it's your fault. They've dodged all discussion of finances by saying that either my student loans will cover it, or I'll just have to get a real job and stop being a spoiled intellectual, or that my siblings put money aside for the kids. When I told them that the money they put aside is only 25,000 Canadian or 19,000 US dollars, they told me that that's the perfect amount for raising kids on. Eventually, I clued in that arguing with them is useless and started to only repeat one thing. You take them in then. No matter what they said, I countered it with, you take them in then. Sometimes adding on things like, if it's selfish not to take them, you take them in then. This is part of what I was least proud of, as it was very immature of me. I'm sure they wanted to wear me down into accepting. Truthfully, it was you guys who gave me the idea, as well as told me to stand my ground, and for that I am grateful. Finally, they raged out and told me I was disowned. Forget you. You are not our son. Forget your family. We refuse to have such a monster in the family. Forget how to speak our language because it's not your country anymore. We will cut you out of every picture that has you in it. You will know what it means to be rejected by your family like you have rejected those kids, etc. Last I heard, there were plane tickets in the works to take them to my parents, so I guess I'm off the hook with them, so to speak. Honestly, I'm done with the whole family, the kids included. If they want to hate me over this, then I guess they can hate me. Closer to home, things have been rough. I spent the time sorting out who I could still count as friends. The town itself I've completely written off. My car was a piece of junk anyway, so people kept keying it and it didn't really matter. I ended up moving as I was definitely no longer welcome here. Ultimately, I don't feel like I won or that I have a happy ending to share, even though things have ended and everything is resolved. So there's your update. I hope it's closure for those of you interested in how this ended up playing out. Would I be the jerk for calling off a wedding because my fiancé is extremely frugal? I, 31 female, struggle with my fiancé, 32 male, his frugalness, and I'm not sure if I want to marry him anymore after our 3-year relationship. I met my fiancé 3 years ago. He came out of a bad marriage just 2 years before we met. One of her absolute worst treatments of him was financially. She made him buy expensive jewelry only to give it away or break it after an argument. Designer shoes, clothes, big house, cars, Caribbean trips, you name it, she made him pay for it. She also took him to the cleaners in the divorce. However, my fiancé is very well off. He makes far over 6 figures, almost 7. On top of that, he inherited a few million from his grandfather, and his parents gifted him and his siblings also another few million. So the financial mistreatment was bad, but he does not suffer financially. He has more money than he will ever need. So last year I moved into his house. I do not pay rent, but I split the bills and buy food. I pay for my own clothes and jewelry. I have a good job and I can take care of myself. However, things have been taking a turn for the worse, and I feel miserable. His house was empty when I moved in. He had hand-me-down furniture, maybe 3 forks and 2 knives. He wouldn't turn on the heating, so the house felt cold and moldy. He has no curtains, no decorations. His ex took everything not bolted down, and he was too cheap to replace it. Just imagine a $1 million house like that. I'm grateful that I can live in his house. It's something I could never afford myself, but I didn't want to live in squalor. So I bought some supplies for the kitchen, some furniture, but at some point I realized I was dipping into my savings all the time and he did nothing. I looked into curtains, but those things are expensive. His house has so many windows, it's crazy. I didn't want to pay for this anymore. I told him I needed a fund to furnish the house. He blew up at me and said that I was just with him for his money. I pointed out all the money that I spend on the house, the gifts and the trips, because he pays for nothing ever. Because he wants to be sure I'm not here for just the money. The fact is, if we break up, I have nothing. The house is not mine. If I spend all my savings on his house, I will be left with absolutely nothing. He wants a prenup, and I'm fine with that, but I can't help but feel used. Next to that, I'm just jealous of his ex-wife. I feel like she got treated, and I'm being neglected. He proposed to his ex on a cruise with a $10,000 white gold diamond ring. I got a rhodium-plated ring that might have cost $100. The proposal was at a picnic in the park I organized, paid groceries for, and slaved in the kitchen for. I almost said no out of pure disappointment. However, I'm afraid to bring it up and to be called a gold digger. I don't want to be funding a millionaire's lifestyle. He loves everything as long as I pay for it. As soon as he has to pay, it's frivolous and unnecessary. I can live like a poor person by myself. At least that way, the fact that there are millions laying around doesn't bum me out, and I would just be paying for my own lifestyle. Would I be the jerk for calling off a wedding purely for financial reasons? Because I love this man, but I imagine our cheap wedding in contrast to his ex and her extravaganza. Will our future kids be able to have some luxuries, or only if I pay for it? What if I ever become a stay-at-home mom? Will I have to beg to put the heating on? I know that it's not made up how his ex treated him. His family and friends told me separate stories of what they witnessed. Not only did it confirm it, but they showed me she was way more terrible than I thought. Like stealing heirloom jewelry of his grandma with Alzheimer's right after she was widowed. Pretending she was gifted these things even though everyone knew grandma hated her guts. I did not realize or see he is doing the same thing to me as she was doing to him, and he's subconsciously punishing me for what was done to him. I'm not trying to force a lifestyle on him where he previously was unhappy in. He told me prior to moving in that he left his house like this because he was depressed after his wife took everything, even the curtains, that it makes him sad and he wants a cozy home. He just didn't know where to start. His house is paid off thanks to his granddad. He isn't actually spending much on utilities either. House is very well isolated and has solar panels. It's weird to see how cheap being rich really is. I'm not asking for designer furniture. IKEA all the way, and I have refurbished secondhand furniture myself. I'm actually pretty thrifty. I see where my jealousy over the ex and her lifestyle might have triggered some people. Let me explain. A $10,000 ring is insane and stupid to me. I don't want that because I would fear for losing it every day. I don't need an over-the-top wedding. However, it almost feels like for her he had effort, wanted to give her what made her happy, put effort and thought into it. With me, it almost feels like he wants to prove how little he can give to me. He talked about what he was willing to spend on our wedding, and it's even cheaper than what my actually financially struggling cousin spent on her wedding. I can't help but feel that he wants to demonstrate how cheap he can treat me. It almost feels like we're washing paper plates at this point. Yes, I did discuss selling the mansion I really don't need and moving to a more modest house, especially knowing this is the house his ex picked. He doesn't want to do that. He loves this house, but I really feel intimidated living in a house I could never afford anyway, and so many large windows. I haven't talked to him yet, but pause on the marriage and counseling is a must. I already am looking for IC because I realized I might indeed be too much of a people pleaser, allowing him to control me with the ghost of his ex. I also am going to separate for a while. I'm looking to rent something for a few months so I can get some space. Thank you for all of your insights. Update. Well, Reddit, you changed my life. Thank you so much for all your ideas and insights. Honestly, I don't think I would have had the courage to do what I did without you guys. I went to therapy, took the day off just to get my racing mind to calm down. Therapy has confirmed things you guys suspected. I'm a people pleaser. I wanted to save him, and I have internalized the idea that any effort and every penny I want him to spend on me makes me a gold digger. I will have weekly sessions to work on me. I realized I would have never taken this treatment from any of my exes, even though I made more than them. The idea I had to prove myself worthy to be with a millionaire and not be in there for the money got to my head pretty early. I called one of his siblings I'm pretty close with and just told her everything. She was not surprised, but just said how unhappy he was making me. She told me that from the day we started, he had this idea that I was out of his league. He struggled to understand why I wanted to be with him, and he probably just thought it must have been his money. She told me she already talked to him in the past to treat me better. She was furious about the proposal. This information confused me a little. I was a little hurt she never discussed any of this before, but she thought it was none of her business. She also explained how she and her husband organized their finances. He also doesn't have as much as her. I took the opportunity to pack a bag. I haven't found a place yet, but I'm going to stay with my parents. I made up my mind that I will at least want 6 months apart to get myself in order. I made sure my stuff was in the car because honestly, I had no idea how the conversation would go. So into the most difficult part, the talk. I waited for him to come home. He was pretty late, but I didn't want to sleep another night on this. Pretending I was fine while I was contemplating all this just ate me up inside. I had written down what I wanted to say. I've never been so scared before. I didn't want to hurt him, and I didn't know how he would react. I took some advice from here. I opened that I was moving out and that I wanted to pause our engagement. He was very quiet and just sat down. I told him he really hurt me by calling me a gold digger and that I'm done walking on eggshells and feeling guilty for just wanting basic things. I told him I was unhappy and felt neglected. I also told him that after 3 years of me showing up for him, he still doesn't think that I'm here for him. It's not going to happen. He was just quiet. He didn't say anything. I told him the constant comparing me to his ex was unhealthy and unfair. Punishing me for her sins was not right. I told him comparing her to me all the time has triggered me comparing myself to her and starting to feel like she was worth more than me. One of the things about her was mostly ungratefulness. He would do nice things for her, but it was never enough. The thing is, he doesn't do nice things for me at all, and I have to be grateful for the pleasure of picking up the bill. I told him he was not ready for marriage, that I dreaded having kids with him and living like this, that I didn't trust he would take care of me if I were a stay-at-home mom. And to that point, I just called him wrong and a user. I was getting pretty angry saying all of this out loud, losing my composure and script a little bit. He remained quiet with almost no emotion on his face. I stayed quiet, but nothing came out, so I decided that I would just leave. Only when I got up to go, he said, "Please don't go." He asked me if I was pausing the wedding or calling it off. He wanted to know if it was over or if he still had a shot. I told him I wanted out of this house. I honestly don't want to live in his ex's palace of sadness anymore. I needed him to go to therapy, and especially financial therapy. I needed separation. I told him I was open to couples counseling if he went to individual counseling. He begged me not to do the separation, but honestly, I really wanted it. I just told him to think about it and I left him. He was finally showing some emotions. He was crying at that point. He sent me a very long text somewhere in the AM, told me he was a wreck and couldn't sleep. He made all kinds of promises. He would go to therapy, sell his house, buy a smaller one, and make sure I'm taken care of whatever happens. He said he would help me decorate and we will make it a home. He again asked me to please come home, but to me, it doesn't feel like home there anyway. I feel very empty and tired. I've been sleeping most of the day. I feel guilty, but also a little bit relieved, if that makes sense. I don't know if I actually want to go back if he does all that. I don't know. I'm a little unsteady right now and I need some space to process this. I'll go back for the kitchen supplies and for my TV. I won't take anything else from the furniture. This is the exact same reason I was unwilling to buy everything. His house is huge, so the couch is huge. I can't take it. I think what it comes down to is her ex hasn't dealt with his issues from his marriage and isn't ready for another relationship. He needs therapy or something to help him accept the idea that not all women are like his ex-wife. I just left this same relationship. I was told I was going to steal all his money and he couldn't be affectionate because his ex had shamed him. I'm not a therapist. You have to work on yourself and not punish your current partner for what your ex did to you. Good for OP for waking up and getting out. Am I the jerk for building my teenage sons a bedroom in the backyard? My wife and I have 5 kids together who are 9, 8, 7, 4, and 2. I have 3 kids with my ex-wife, sons who are 17 and 15, and a 13-year-old daughter. When I bought our current house, it had 4 bedrooms. I later renovated the basement to add another 2 bedrooms. My wife and I have 1 room, the 3 teenagers had a room each, and the younger boys shared the other 2 rooms, with various configurations over the years. As the younger boys get older, things are going to get more cramped for them, and we haven't ruled out having more kids. I also don't want to immediately take my older kids' rooms away the second they go to college, and maybe they'll stay local or not go at all. Because of this, I started looking at how I would add more bedrooms. The property our house is on is a little under 1 acre. Last year, I decided I would build a den in the backyard that could become the older boys' bedrooms. The build was finished a few weeks ago, and the boys have moved in. They have a small shared living space that includes a kitchenette, a shared bathroom, and they each have their own rooms. It's essentially a tiny house in our yard. The boys love it, and we had a lot of fun working on the build together. My ex-wife, however, is less than pleased with the boys' new living arrangements. She has multiple safety concerns as she thinks they're too far away if something happens, and that they will feel like they could get away with whatever as I can't monitor them well. She also thinks it's unfair that they will have to walk through a yard to get to and from their bedrooms to the house, even in adverse weather conditions. She feels as though I'm pushing the boys away by housing them in the backyard, and that it suggests I'm prioritizing my new family, while at the same time thinking giving them a cool den in the backyard is favoring them over their sister. I think her biggest issue is the one she didn't mention, which is worrying the boys will want to spend even more time at my house if they have more privacy and a great place to hang out with their friends. We no longer split custody based on our custody agreement, and for the last few years, the boys have lived the majority of their time with me, whereas our daughter alternates between our houses every 2 weeks. My ex is trying to make it like I'm a massive jerk in this situation, but I really don't feel like I am. However, in the past, I haven't always known when I was being a jerk, so maybe I'm missing something. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. If it meets code, you're fine. If some adverse event is forecasted, deal with it at the time. And by the way, she doesn't get a say in how you manage your own house. It's nice that you listen, but she's not in charge. The boys are old enough to be held accountable if they mess up, and until then, have your trust. They're nearly adults. Am I the jerk for suggesting my goddaughter rethink her career choices? I'm a 41-year-old guy, and one of my friends, Mike, asked me to be goddaughter to his daughter, Chloe, when she was born. I accepted happily, and we've always had a good relationship. I especially used to enjoy helping her out with schoolwork and projects alongside my own kids, because Chloe was always extremely academic. She always got top grades, and her parents assumed she'd go to medical school, as she had expressed wishes to be a doctor from a really young age. Mike, his wife, and Chloe moved a little further away a few years back, meaning I didn't see them for a long time. We kept in contact online though. Recently though, we all met up for dinner to catch up. I asked Chloe, who's now 17, what medical school she'd be attending, and she told me that she didn't want to do that anymore. Instead, she told me that she wanted to become a gardener. I don't think she had it quite figured out yet, but something involving horticulture because she loves nature. I was a little surprised, but her parents explained that another factor was her anxiety diagnosis, meaning she was interested in finding a job that would be a little less stressful, as well as giving her the chance to work alone and be outside in nature. I said something along the lines of, But you always wanted to be a doctor. You'd throw those dreams away? I know it could sound harsh, but I know what she always dreamed about, and I love her like my own, so I want for her what I want for my own kids, to be happy in a stable and professional job. I also mentioned that becoming a gardener is not a cure for her, at which point Chloe and her parents went quiet and we didn't talk much more about the remainder of the evening. Mike took me aside before they left and told me I had upset Chloe and angered them by pushing the subject, and that if gardening is what she wants to do, then that's the end of it. My wife chewed me out too. I just can't help but feel she's throwing away something she's always wanted for an easier option in the present, rather than buckling down to a secure and good future. Good things in life are never easy after all. So, am I the jerk? If your goddaughter doesn't want to do this, don't make her do it. You're the jerk. Mind your own business. What's wrong with wanting to work outside? Good exercise, nature. And since when do we hold our kids accountable for their dream job they expressed before their brain is fully developed? I wanted to be a unicorn. Maybe my parents should hold me accountable. She should choose something that makes her happy and fills her cup. The world is an awful place, and being an adult is very depressing. Let the poor girl make a decision that may bring her joy. Not the jerk. Goodness, you people never cease to amaze me. God forbid Godfather try talking some sense into his goddaughter since her own parents aren't even able to get through to her. So instead of becoming a doctor, which was totally in the cards, she's going to become a gardener? And make what, $12 an hour? No wonder you all think everything should be handed to you for free. You have no common sense, and you demonize those who do. Part of being a parent and providing guidance is encouraging your kids in the right direction. Telling your academically gifted daughter that it's okay for her to be a gardener because she's looking for an easy cop-out is not okay, period. Why do I even come on this site anymore? The sheer stupidity that I see is making me lose my mind. Am I the jerk for calling the police on my fiancé? My fiancé, 28 male, and I, 30 female, have been together for 3 years. I used to live close to work and used public transportation, but after I moved into his house, which is hours away from work, I bought myself a car since I'm a nurse, and also since there aren't any hospitals close to where we live that I could transfer to. My fiancé's car hadn't been working for close to 2 months now. It requires so much money to get it fixed, and he refused my financial help when I offered it. Instead, he would ask to use my car every now and then, and I agreed as long as it's when I'm not working, and also since he only uses it for trips to the supermarket, etc. On New Year's Eve, he told me he wanted to use my car to go hang out with his friends and celebrate, but I declined because I had to cover a night shift and needed my car to travel to work. He insisted and even suggested I take the night off or swap shifts with another nurse, but I couldn't do that last minute. I thought he dropped it then, but when I went into the shower and got out, I couldn't find him nor my car. I freaked out and started calling for half an hour, but he didn't answer me. I tried again until one of his friends picked up. I demanded he give the phone to my fiancé, but he said they were out and confirmed he took my car and told me that my fiancé said that it's better that I skip my shift and he'll be back with my car later. I couldn't take it. I felt so enraged. I had my fiancé on the phone telling him I did not consent for him to take my car to go hang out with friends and said I'd call the police to get it back if he refused to come back with it. But he didn't take me seriously, so I ended up calling the police, and he and his friends were picked up at the bar where they were hanging out. Then they were taken to the police department. I got my car from there and still went to my shift. My fiancé was let go hours after I left, and he blew up my phone with missed calls and texts about how I was out of my mind to call the police on him and put him in this situation. I did not respond, but when I got off work the next day, we got into an argument, and he said he couldn't believe I'd do this to him. But I told him he made me do this, to which he responded that I was petty and callous because not only did I ruin his New Year's celebration, but all his friends aren't speaking to him after I put them in this situation as well, and he then kept giving me the silent treatment. I did consider this a form of theft, especially since he went behind my back after getting a no from me. But he was shocked that I'd even imply that he was a thief and said what's yours is mine and vice versa, so I shouldn't be using the terms theft and stealing. Karen gets caught on camera stealing my plant and ends up on the local news. So this lady walking by outside decided to literally stop and steal our plant by pulling it out of the ground. This wasn't the first time that this happened, but we finally caught it on camera. It had been growing indoors in a vase for 2 years, as we were afraid this would happen again. But it was getting root bound, so we had to move it to our driveway 2 weeks ago. Then comes this morning and this happens. This was in South Brazil. Update. Soon after this took place, our friendly neighbor who happened to be outside had seen this take place and came to us straight away to let us know. As she's elderly, there was no attempt to stop the suspect in her tracks. She mentioned that she knew this person, so my wife and mother-in-law grabbed the footage from the security camera and drove over to their house in search of our plant. Upon arrival at the address, they very politely spoke to the suspect and asked her to give the plant back, as we had video evidence and witnesses that could testify she was the one who took it. She tried brushing it off, saying it wasn't her, and supposedly even threatened us that she would press charges for falsely accusing her. After some back and forth with no success of getting it back, she said, "Fine, if this isn't you, we'll reach out to our local news to try and identify who the actual person is." While this was taking place, I filed a police report and I got in contact with our local news and I sent them the video. We didn't provide the address or name of the suspect, as all we wanted was to retrieve our plant without harming anyone. When the camera footage hit the news, people from the neighborhood and people that knew us were bombarding us with messages. People on Instagram were already reposting the video, and very soon after, we were contacted by this person's family. They were profoundly apologetic and said they would do everything to try to retrieve it for us, as this was in no way a representation of who they were. To be clear, their family was actually very humble people who did different types of general labor work, and they're very well known and respected by everyone in the area for their work and friendliness. They were completely shocked once they saw the news, and they knew straight away who this was. By late afternoon, they had brought the plant back. When they did, they also said this person was mentally ill and on medication. How much of this is true, I don't know. But what I know is they did their utmost best to amend and bring closure to this situation without aggravation and distress. They also offered financial compensation, which we declined. We only asked for the plant back, which they did bring with them. But to our surprise, unfortunately, it had already been mostly burnt, and what I can only suspect was an attempt to red the evidence. It was placed in a black bag and then lit up, probably when it hit the news. The roots seemed to have survived as it was still moist. I'm no plant expert, so we did replant it after cutting off the burnt stems in hopes that it will regrow. So this is it, the whole story. I decided to post this due to the traction that it's gotten, as I would like there to be no third-party misinformation surrounding this ordeal. For those that requested, the plant is a bougainvillea, and while not an exotic and rather inexpensive species, was very dear to us as it had very sentimental value to my wife's family. No money could replace it, and we had only planted it outside as a keepsake to see it blossom into a beautiful tree, and also because it began getting root-bound in the pot that it was previously in. My teenage son messed up big time, and I'm afraid of what happens next. Plus, final update. My son is 17 and just started driving. He used my car, a Honda Civic, to go to and from school sometimes. I was at home this week when 3 police cars came to our driveway and officers were banging on our door. Turns out my son rear-ended a vehicle and drove away. To make it even worse, the driver was a cop in his personal truck. It took maybe 15 minutes from the incident to when they came knocking. The hit truck has no damage. It was just a tap at maybe 15 miles per hour into his towing hitch. Our Civic's license plate is bent and there is some bumper damage. The truck driver filed an insurance claim with our insurance. My son admitted fault. There's also video footage of everything. I'm beyond freaked out and I haven't slept since. I scolded my son, but there is only so much I can do now. He says he freaked out about hitting an expensive new truck and just drove off. I explained how wrong that was. What I'm more concerned about is that the driver pressed charges to teach this kid a lesson. The cops on scene said it's up to the other driver if he wants this charged, and he chose to. We were told my son will be formally charged on Monday by the prosecutor and probably arrested. Fleeing the scene of an accident is an arrestable offense here, and it carries jail time too. I'm so scared. I'm a single mom. I can't afford to pay lawyers to keep my son out of prison when we can barely afford rent, food, and bills. I know my insurance rates will be done for years to come. His too, probably. What do we do here? Thanks. Update. I really appreciate everyone's input and words, some good and some bad. We've been a ball of stress since last week. He was officially charged with leaving the scene of an accident and fined for failure to maintain speed. I spoke to a few lawyers around town and they all agreed there is zero chance the DA will drop the charge. Our county is very tough on crime and they are campaigning on it. The DA refused any agreement, plea deal. They also have lots of video evidence from the truck's front and back dash cameras, a gas station, and an intersection camera. Our focus is to try and get probation instead of jail time. I need to come up with a few hundred for the fine and $1,500 for the lawyer. That's in addition to the insurance rates that will definitely go up. As a kicker, my insurance has small accident forgiveness for damage lower than $500. The insurance estimate for the truck's damage hitch came to $504. They also want to suspend my son's license so he won't be able to go to or from any job that isn't close by. We live in a really spread out area where a car is basically mandatory. I'm just so upset with him and his decision making. Trying to keep it together and work our way out of this, but it's frustrating. After watching the video, I got even more mad. He clearly realized he hit the truck, then drove around it, and off he went. Ugh. Final update. The crime he's been charged with is a Class B misdemeanor. The maximum penalty is 6 months in jail and up to a $2,000 fine. The prosecutor has asked for the max on both. We worked with an attorney who told us from the get-go that this case won't be dropped and best we can hope for is a lower punishment. I spent countless hours dealing with this. Our attorney was able to negotiate 5 months in county jail and a $1,500 fine. That's all the prosecution would budge on. The alternative was the full 6 months in jail and $1,000 fine. Attorney advised that we should take it because a judge would throw the max penalty in this county, especially since there's clear footage and really nothing to dispute or excuse the crime. Other lawyers had the same opinion. My son is freaking out and he's scared about jail time and now having a criminal record. He's been crying and is just a mess. That's besides the finance aspect. So anyway, financially, this has put us in a deeper hole than we were before. Now my son won't be able to work during the summer because he'll be in jail. He's missing the college start because of it too. We need to come up with $1,500 fine plus $1,000 lawyer fees and $350 miscellaneous court fees. I don't have any available credit lines, so I'll have to start borrowing or working an extra job. The biggest unknown is insurance. They might drop us after this. If not, I need to also factor in the premium increase at the next renewal, which will probably be a lot. It's definitely a big lesson for him, and me too, I guess, since I never thought to explain he shouldn't drive off after hitting something or someone. Ask for the case to be moved to a different county. Like, seriously. OP. On what grounds? What reasons can we invoke? The recommendation of moving the trial is a Reddit tier bad legal advice comment. In Texas, you have to prove either a local conspiracy or specific local media attention against a defendant to the point that they cannot receive a fair trial in order to get a change of venue. In the end, the cop doesn't decide on the sentence and neither does the prosecutor, unless there's an agreement. In a contested trial, regardless of the plea, punishment is set by the judge or by a jury at the defendant's choice. It doesn't appear that there's reason to doubt that he would have a fair jury in your jurisdiction. As tempting as it is to listen to contrary opinions of people on the internet with nothing to lose in your situation, if you've already spoken to multiple local attorneys, absolutely listen to them. Source: I'm a prosecutor in Texas. Am I the jerk for asking my fiancé to make his parents get up early? I, 32 female, am getting married in less than a week to my soon-to-be husband who's 34. On the day itself, I'm planning on getting ready with a few friends at home. Currently, we have our in-laws visiting from another country, so they're staying at our house. My mother-in-law got injured and has trouble walking lately, so we ended up making her and father-in-law stay in our bedroom that's downstairs, while we're currently sleeping in the guest room upstairs. It's not a big problem, but I have to admit that I'm not fond of not having access to my own room and clean clothes when I want to. I'm very independent, so being dependent on other people's schedules has always bothered me. I don't need a lot of sleep, so I go to bed late and early. My fiancé and his parents are opposites. They go to bed early and like to sleep in. So I'm waiting for around 4 to 5 hours every day to get my clean clothes, because by the time I start thinking about getting clean clothes for the next day, they've already gone to bed. It's extremely hard for me to walk in on someone sleeping, and I just hate to do it. It's also partly because I feel like I'm a guest in my own house, and I need to walk on tiptoes to not disturb anyone. They've only been staying here for about a week, so I'll survive their stay, but I'm starting to get stressed out because of the wedding. My fiancé has also been gone for the past 4 days. He had to travel for his wedding suit, and then he had his bachelor party, so I've had to do all the wedding-related stuff, clean up after his parents, play a good host, and also file taxes and do my job. It's a bit much, and on top of that, I've recently found out that I'm 9 weeks pregnant, and I'm suffering from terrible exhaustion and morning sickness all day. I feel myself being more irritable because I'm constantly sick and nauseous. So I'm not sure if my hormones are all whack because I'm pregnant and if I'm truly being unreasonable, or if I'm actually justified in my feelings. So here's where I might be the jerk. I spoke to my fiancé yesterday and I asked him to tell his parents to get up earlier on the day of the wedding so I can have access to my things and not have to worry about waiting for them several hours. He called me selfish and said that I couldn't ask that of people. I hate to pull the "but it's our wedding day" card, but I feel like I'm not being unreasonable by asking him to do this for my stress levels. So, am I the jerk for wanting my mother-in-law and father-in-law to get up early on the wedding day so I'll have full access to my own bedroom and things without feeling like I'm not allowed in there? I'm currently frustrated because of the clothing issues, but I readily admit that it's due to my own bad planning. There's no excuse. I've just been swamped and I've been frustrated at myself for this. I provided this context because I thought this, plus my hormones and nausea, might be clouding my judgment. What I'm actually asking for is to have my master bathroom on the morning of the wedding day. In order to save money on makeup and hair, I have 2 good friends helping me get ready for the day of the wedding. We would therefore need the space to fit 3 people, and the upstairs bathroom only fits 1 person. We would start around 8:30ish because I have to leave the house around noon. As things currently are, I have enough space in the guest bathroom for my daily routine because I don't wear makeup. Thank you, Accutane. On normal days, and I don't need to do much to my hair other than brush and braid it. So I'm not asking for the space until Saturday morning, and I'm not blaming my in-laws for me allowing them to stay in our bedroom. They're wonderful people, and they have lived incredibly hard lives, and this is their first vacation in over 20 years, which is why I've been hesitant to be anything but accommodating towards them. What is mother-in-law's injury, and could this be a ploy to get the bedroom? She has a heart condition, asthma, and arthritis, which all makes it super hard for her to keep super active, even though she tries. This means that she has pulled a muscle in her calf and she has a pinched nerve, or maybe even something more serious, happened during her flight over here from Australia to Europe. This is definitely no ploy, and she offered to sleep on the couch instead, which I absolutely would not allow her to do, given her arthritis. Why can't your fiancé get them a hotel room? Because my fiancé hasn't seen his parents in over 3.5 years, since they're from Australia and we live in Europe. So he asked if I was okay with them staying with us because he wanted to spend time with them, even if his insanely horrible planning had him away for 4 days. Is this out of character for your fiancé? Because it's an out of character thing for him, he's usually very supportive and kind to me, but I know he's been very worried about his mother. So I also know that this response is partly because he doesn't understand the amount of preparation that goes into getting ready for a wedding. He thought I could get ready in half an hour, since I can normally get ready in 15-ish minutes, and because he just doesn't want to inconvenience his mother due to her health issues. Update. I talked to my in-laws yesterday evening and asked if they would mind terribly to spend the night before the wedding at my own parents' place, since they're driving with my parents to the church anyway. They were super gracious and didn't mind one bit. My mother-in-law even said that I needed all the time I could get and that it is always the best to get out of the bride's hair on her special morning so she can have plenty of time to get ready without distractions. So yeah, they're incredibly good and kind people, and anyone would be blessed to call them their in-laws. I wish that was where the story ended, but it's not. This morning, my maybe ex-fiancé and I had a huge fight over me snapping at him because he left food and coffee out, which made me throw up due to morning sickness. At the end of it, he told me, "If you can't drop the attitude, maybe you shouldn't even bother showing up on Saturday at all." I started crying and asked him if he was serious. He said yes, so I started ugly crying and sobbing and asked him again if he was serious. He said yes. I asked him again if he truly was serious and if he truly felt like he wanted me to not show up. He said yes again. I'm still sobbing the entire time. I told him that since he felt that way, that he didn't want to marry me, he should have his ring back. So I gave him the engagement ring back, and he just didn't react at all. Absolutely nothing to read on his face. It was like he just didn't care at all, and I wasn't even there. I've been driving for a few hours. I've luckily taken this week off of work, so I don't need to worry about that today, and I'm currently riding this at a gas station. So far, I haven't heard anything from him. It's been more than 3 hours since I started driving. I don't even know what to do. I'm devastated and still crying uncontrollably. Of all the scenarios I ever imagined for this week, my fiancé, a man I have 2 dogs, a house, and a baby on the way with, asking me to not show up to our own wedding was not one of them. I'm just too hurt to even process what's going on right now and what the heck I should do going forward. I wish I had a happier update, but yeah. Sorry, guys. More on the fight. I couldn't really write the full version of the fight, but essentially here it is. I suggested that I should maybe stay with my parents for a few days because we were both getting very upset at each other, and maybe it was all just too stressful. He then said, "Maybe you should just stay there until Saturday. Or better yet, if you can't drop the attitude, maybe you shouldn't even bother showing up on Saturday at all." I asked what he meant by that, and he said, "If you can't stop behaving like this, then maybe you should buzz off to your parents. Stay there and stay away on Saturday." That's when I started crying. So I kept asking if he was serious, and he just said yes. I went into the car, cried for 10 minutes, then went back into the house to ask him a final time. He still said yes, and that's when I gave him the ring back. Update 2. I'm okay, I'm safe, I'm warm, and I'm fed. I'm back home with my dogs and in my own bed. The still-to-be-determined, maybe ex, jerk fiancé is staying on the couch and trying not to look like a wounded dog. Apparently, he realized his mistake the minute I gave him the ring back and has told me he basically didn't compute what was going on, which is why he didn't react. He has described it as an out-of-body experience. He didn't really understand what was going on until his parents were yelling at him a few minutes later. They had overheard our fight and were very upset with him. In the end, they ended up contacting me, telling me that he was driving around looking for me and had forgotten his phone and if I was okay. I ended up driving most of the day and coming back to the house around dinner time. Fiancé had come home in the meantime and written me a wall of text apologizing and begging me to talk to him. He word vomited his apology and admitted to being freaked out about everything, especially the pregnancy happening so fast, and he called himself a self-sabotaging idiot. He also said he did not mean what he said at all. Basically, his jerk response was because he misheard me when I had said that his parents didn't deserve him being away for 4 days, as though I had said his parents didn't deserve to be in our house. So he reacted so strongly because he thought I was insulting his parents. Not that that's a valid excuse, but it does clear up why his response was so out of character. He also admitted to me that after seeing his mother's bad health, he's been extremely worried about her and he's afraid that she could be dying. So he has dealt with extreme guilt of leaving them for the 4 days. I barely spoke when he apologized, which then made him cry. First time I've ever seen him cry, and beg for a chance to make it up to me. He already started by asking if he should find himself a hotel room so that I had the house, or if I preferred to stay at a fancy spa hotel, or how I wanted to do things. I decided that he could sleep on the couch for the time being. At least he, without any hesitation or being told to do so, has been running wedding errands all day and sent me a message that he will do all the wedding-related stuff unless I want to do anything. He also looked up couples therapy and has sent me a few options for dates. Unfortunately, none of them are until next week or after, but he has said he wants us to go no matter what, if I end up giving him a chance to make things right. So his parents are basically shunning him and not talking to him, and I'm still making my mind up on whether or not I want to go through with the wedding. I haven't accepted my ring back yet, but I've decided that I'm definitely having a party on Saturday. The question is whether or not I'd like to have him there as well. All in all, this is a roller coaster, and I feel like I'm still free-falling. The hormones don't help either. As long as I can relax today and finally catch up on some Diablo 4, since jerk fiancé is still taking care of the wedding stuff. Thank you again, everybody. I helped the least romantic man on the planet surprise his wife of 10 years by selling him Jello molds on Facebook Marketplace. So a while back, I was buying auction goods and selling them on the marketplace. One piece I found was 3 vintage Jello molds I had listed for $40. There was this man in his mid-30s with a decent appearance, good clothes, and a nice car. He offered to meet and buy them for $40, so I talked to him for a bit, curious about what he wanted to buy them for. As I was also trying to sell him other items, I discovered that this guy planned to buy the Jello molds for his wife of 10 years, and that was all he was doing. I spoke to him and said, "Do you think it would be a bit odd if she found out you only spent $40 after 10 years? He replied, "I guess that would be kind of odd. What else can I do?" I told him, "Well, what about flowers? What are her favorite flowers?" He replied, "I don't really know. I never asked her." I got her name and looked at her Facebook profile. Every photo had the daisy filter, including her cover photo. I told the guy, "Make it 80 and I'll meet you on the day, and I'll get you a batch of her favorite flowers. Also, if money isn't too tight, I know a steak place outside of town where I can get you a reservation for that night." He asked, "You do that for 80? I replied, "Yup." I called Walmart and asked them to put together a bouquet of daisies and some spider lilies for an additional touch. It cost me $15. I made the reservation in his last name, got him everything he needed, and even coached him on not assuming they were her favorites and letting her say it. This confirmed that they were her favorites and made him seem more thoughtful. I also told him under no circumstances to ever tell her I did any of it, and just say he thought he'd do something special if she ever questioned it. Later, I watched her Facebook, and the next day after it was over, she wrote this. I love this man so much for all the trouble he went through for me. Sometimes you never know how lucky you are until it's really shown to you. He got me my favorites. Look at these. The Jello molds are gorgeous too, just like my grandmother had. I love this man so much. We had a really good time last night, even after 10 years. There were also photos of the restaurant, Jello molds, and flowers. I was so happy when I saw the post. In total, I made this woman's day, and hopefully I helped him be a bit more thoughtful in the process. I know I didn't get paid nearly enough, but come on, Jello molds and no plans when you have the money on a 10-year anniversary? No woman deserves that. Note, I'm a dude, and I would never let my girlfriend down like that. Keeping romance is needed, regardless of how long. Would I be the jerk for canceling my daughter's 16th birthday party after warning her about it a year ago? For my daughter's 15th birthday, my spouse and I paid for her to take some of her friends out to a restaurant for dinner. During this dinner party, my daughter got into an argument with one of her friends who's 15. Apparently, my daughter was upset that this friend gave her a cheap gift bought from a thrift store. According to her best friend, who's 15, who told us what happened, my daughter seemed to like the gift at first and asked her friend where she bought it from. When the girl admitted it was from a thrift store, this is when my daughter lost it and called her names like cheap, gold digger, and a beggar. Now, it is well known that this friend's family is not well off, but I know that she's a sweet girl who did her best to get my daughter a gift with her meager allowance. My spouse and I confronted our daughter about it, and she admitted she insulted her friend. She went on to insult her further by saying things like, "This is probably the only way she gets to eat at a restaurant, so she should be grateful and give me a decent gift." I don't know where my daughter learned such entitlement, but she did not learn it at home. Even her best friend was uncomfortable by her behavior. We immediately took away all of her gifts and donated them. We also told her that unless she apologizes to this girl in front of everyone who is present at the party, we will not be sponsoring any more of her birthdays. My daughter never apologized, and over time, the girl drifted apart from the friend group. My daughter's 16th birthday is coming up next month, and she started talking about what kind of party she wants. I reminded her of our promise that we would not fund any more birthday parties until she has apologized for her behavior at her previous party. Daughter is saying it's been a year and the girl is no longer her friend anyway. She said her best friend is getting a sweet 16 party, not a thing in my culture, and how will it look if she doesn't get one too? We told her she still has a month to apologize, but she's not planning to do it because she thinks we'll cave. My in-laws are offering to pay for her party, but we have forbidden them from doing that. Daughter and both sets of grandparents are telling us that we're being too harsh and ruining her social life. Would I be the jerk if we don't give her a birthday party this year? Not the jerk. Bravo to you for sticking to this. This is the best thing you can do for your daughter. You need to talk to your in-laws and tell them not to interfere. Not the jerk. I would not let her off the hook. Maybe next year I'd pay for it, but there has to be at least some kind of consequence for her actions, and if you cave, it'll just show her that she can escape punishment by ignoring the problem. Karen demanded to get me fired because I refused to sell her skinny jeans. Background info. My name is Sean. This story happened at Walmart in January of this year. I used to work at Walmart in September, but I quit to go work at my sister's donut shop. At Walmart, I worked at the register. I would see this woman from time to time. I actually ended up being good friends with her. She was chill to me and most people all the time, and she was really just cool in general. We would hang out after my shifts sometimes, and I loved being around her. Alright, now on to the main story. In January, I was at Walmart looking for a Lego set I've been trying to get for a little less than a year, when suddenly, for the sake of this story, we'll call her Karen. She walks up to me. "Hey Sean, it's been a week or two since we last talked." She would randomly pop up out of nowhere and scare me like that. This was one of those times. "Oh hey, it has." She quickly interrupted me, which was weird since she would usually let me speak first, but I thought nothing of it since we've known each other for so long. "So, I found these amazing skinny jeans that I need so badly, but they don't have them in my size. Can you go check in the back for me?" She was talking in one of those snobby Karen voices you would hear in an MK video. "Oh, sorry Karen, but I quit my job last month." With that annoying Karen voice, she said, "You've always been so funny, Sean. But for real though, can you check the back and see if you guys have this in a size 18? Karen seemed really off today, and this confused me because she's always been really happy. Oh, I'm not joking. I really did quit last month after Black Friday. I can't really handle that many people. I don't know if something just clicked in her head, but she just went off on me for no reason at all. All right, Sean, enough jokes. If you don't get these jeans in my size, I will get the manager and have you fired and banned from all Walmarts. She was really causing a scene, and I could even see somebody recording from afar. Karen has never really yelled at anybody that I've seen, so this was really confusing and actually kind of scary for me. Whoa, Karen, calm down. I really don't work here anymore. Why else would I not be in uniform? Which she responded with, well, maybe it's because you're just trying to pull a prank on other people. Well, guess what, Sean? It's not funny, and I'm gonna get the manager. At this point, I'm just standing in the toy aisle, completely confused and embarrassed with all the people that are staring at me. A few moments later, my old manager came with Karen. Let's call him Bob. Now, Bob was the best manager ever. We would hang out any chance we got, but after I quit, we kind of slowed down. We're still in touch though. Here he is. Hey, Sean, Bob is here to fire you. Bob came up to me and said, hey, Sean, it's been a while. How you doing? Yeah, I broke my arm a while back, but other than that, I'm fine. Karen looked shocked and so confused, which kind of made me cackle a bit. Bob told Karen, hey, lady, Sean actually quit a month ago, so he doesn't work here anymore. Of course, Karen's hate being denied, so she said, even the manager is in on the prank? I'm out of here. Karen stormed out, and after that, I never heard from her again. This whole situation was so weird and out of character for Karen, so I'm still kind of confused as to why she flipped out on me. If she sees this post, chances are she's gonna sue me for harassment. Also, I'm pretty sure she stole the skinny jeans that weren't even her size, nor were they the proper size for skinny jeans. Edit. A ton of people are confused on how my arm magically healed so fast, but prior to when this story takes place, I was able to get my cast taken off since it had been 4.5 weeks since I broke my arm. Without my cast, it wasn't too obvious that my arm was broken. Hope this helps clear things up. Would I be the jerk if I contact my biological siblings to let them know I exist against the wishes of my biological parents? I'm male, 18. I was adopted by a couple who separated shortly after my adoption, and I was eventually taken away from them and placed into foster care when I was 3. That's where I grew up. Recently, I've acquired details about my biological parents from a family friend who helped connect them to my adoptive parents all those years ago. I looked them up online. They have 3 kids, a son who's 15 and twin daughters who are 13. The son has the same name as me. A few weeks ago, I went to the church they go to and I saw them from a distance. I didn't introduce myself, just wanted to see them before they knew who I was. Also figured out where they live. About 2 weeks ago, I finally sent a message to my mom explaining who I am and telling her that I would like to meet them. She saw the message that day but didn't reply for a whole week, and then just sent a very short message telling me they're not interested in getting to know more about me or having me in their lives, to not contact her or her family ever again. I sent a message to my dad then, and he said we can have a phone call. We had that call last week. He didn't even let me tell him anything about myself. He explained that they had had me when they were 22 and didn't want a kid back then, so they gave me to another couple, and there really isn't anything for us to discuss. He said he doesn't want to know more about me and doesn't want to hear from me again. I'm not going to lie, this was difficult for me to hear and I had a few days to process it. But I get it. They didn't want me then and they don't want me now. I'm trying my best to just get over it, but I still have 3 siblings. Maybe they would want to get to know me. So I sent another message to my dad, thanked him for taking the time to speak with me and being frank about what he wants. I explained that I respect the fact that he and my mom don't want me in their lives, and that's their choice, and I will respect that. However, I have 3 siblings, and I would like to meet and get to know them. He called me an hour later. This time he was angry and told me that he made it clear that I have no place in their family and I should stay away from all 5 of them forever. He said the kids don't know about me and it will stay that way. I wasn't expecting him to call me or the aggression, so I was kind of shocked, but I was like, but that should be their choice. And he said he's not going to discuss his family with me. Ended the call with saying, do not contact any of us ever again. Would I be the jerk if I went to talk to my siblings, introduce myself, and let them know that they have an older brother? I'm obviously not trying to be a jerk here, but I don't think the parents get to make this decision about their kids. I do want a relationship with my siblings, of course only if they want that too. If my siblings don't want to get to know me, I'll stay away from all of them. You would be the jerk, but not once the eldest turns 18. Reach out to him then, and he can decide whether to tell his sisters. If he doesn't, reach out to them when they turn 18. Just be sure to respect any boundaries they set. Karen snuck essential oils in our food. Now she's paying the price for it. I, 20 male, moved in with my parents for the summer to save money for my job, since the hotel where I work is a 40-minute train ride from my hometown. My sister, who's 29, has been living with them for the past 4 to 5 months because her husband is divorcing her and a judge has decided that she isn't allowed to be around her family for now. My sister fell for an American scam called Young Living that sells essential oils, and in 8 months, she spent around 12,500 euros, which was all of their savings, on buying inventory that she was supposed to be selling. She hid it in the basement of their apartment where they never usually go. Her husband had to repair one of the kids' bikes and found the boxes there. He confronted my sister, and to her credit, she admitted to everything, including secretly mixing the oils in their food. Her husband threw her out and filed for divorce. There was an emergency hearing in which the judge decided that my sister is a danger to their family. Her husband showed records of the insane claims the company makes about their products, and she will only be allowed visitation when she sees a psychiatrist. She has refused to go and is fighting the order. Her husband still allows us to see the kids, and I even babysat them a couple of times when I didn't have exams and was still in the capital. Since I moved here last month, my sister has been a nightmare. The only thing she does are cry, scream, and complain, but she doesn't listen to advice, and she has changed lawyers 3 times. I finished my night shift at the hotel, and I was home by 7 a.m. My parents had already gone to work, and my sister was in the living room drinking coffee. As soon as she saw me, she started complaining about how unfair her life is. I just wanted to eat breakfast and go to bed, and she wouldn't even let me go to the kitchen. After the 4th minute, I couldn't take it anymore and shouted at her. I told her she's acting worse than a kid. I told her that she's lucky her husband didn't make a Facebook post or contact her job. She works with classified information to get her fired. She started crying and locked herself in her room. She's still crying and throwing her stuffed animals, the only things left in her room, at the wall. Also, she's late for work since her laptop and phone, which haven't stopped ringing for 30 minutes, are on the living room table. So, am I the jerk? Edit. Thanks for all the advice. My parents came home finally and are currently fighting with my sister after I told them what's been going on. My dad gave me the car keys so I can sleep on it since I won't be able to sleep in the house for some time and I have a morning shift tomorrow. To answer some questions, her family is fine. Her husband had them all tested and there was no damage to their livers. The only concern was with their stomachs, as they had some kind of wart-like things in them. I don't know the exact details, and I'm not planning to ask my brother-in-law for more info, but it cleared up with time and medication without the need for surgery. My sister was never like this before, although she is really competitive. She was first in high school and has won math and physics competitions. She was accepted into the best technical university in our country. When she was ranked 3rd during her university graduation, she threw a tantrum, but we thought that it was because she was getting married and worrying about what master's degree to apply for. My sister isn't religious, and I don't know why she joined the MLM. The only thing she's told us is that she thought she could make a lot of money quickly, and she had people who would buy all her inventory in a couple of months. She has an amazing salary of 3,000 euros a month, which is equivalent to 6,000 in our currency. 2020 and 2021 were great years for her as she was promoted because many people were let go for allowing hacker attacks, and she only has to work 6 hours a day from home. She used 17 types of oils in her and her husband's cooking because she thought they were harmless, but more than half of them weren't safe for human consumption, according to the labels. Her defense was that the labels were just for show and that they were actually safe. She would have gotten visitation, but when the psychiatrist was recommended, my sister got mad and apparently said something like, "This is what happens when a country allows illiterate people to become lawyers." Technically true. I shouldn't have stayed home after she started throwing stuff at her wall. I could have gone to our neighbor's house and slept there. She's a nice lady who's been like family for years, but honestly, I wasn't thinking straight. I slept in the car because there was a lot of screaming and I needed rest. Also, I could never spend half my paycheck to sleep for a night in the hotel where I work. We've tried talking to her calmly, but it doesn't work. After my nap in the car, I talked with my dad, who was waiting for me. I will apologize to my sister tomorrow after I finish work because I shouldn't have shouted at her. During the weekend, we will repair the lock to my door. It's been broken for years, but I never had a reason to use it. Starting tomorrow, my sister will be working for my dad's office since he's a notary and can keep an eye on her. She wasn't too happy, but my dad got mad and told her she isn't too old to be punished even though she's 29. I barely stopped myself from laughing. As for her work, my mom is calling her GP to write a note stating that she sprained her ankle and was in the hospital, so all my sister has to do is apologize to her boss for not contacting him. She was also warned that if she behaves like this again, she will be living with our aunt. My mom apparently told my sister that she's disappointed in her and that she failed her as a mother if her kid acts like this at 29. My sister was crushed because she respects my mom a lot. She stopped going to school at 14 to start working in a factory to support the family, and now she's a department head in a clothing factory. But she still refuses to see a psychiatrist. Not the jerk. She needs a reality check now. Many commenters will say you're the jerk for shouting at her, but I'm working on the assumption that you've tried talking to her about it and got nonsensical dream world answers back, mixed with a healthy dose of I'm the victim. It's okay to be frustrated with this behavior. I would apologize for losing your crap, but follow up with as calm a conversation about this as you can both manage. Watching a loved one self-destruct is hard. Am I the jerk for pressing charges on a former friend for shaving my head in my sleep? For context, a relative of what used to be a close friend of mine, whom we'll call Gary for this story, contracted cancer. I, mid-20s male, was sympathetic and even contributed $100 to a donation pool for their treatment. But Gary came to me one day and took his hat off to reveal a freshly shaven head. He told me that everyone in his family was doing it in support of his relative, and so were a lot of our mutual friends. Then he asked that I get on the bandwagon. I told him I don't want to shave my head because I like my hair. My hair is black, regularly combed and well styled. He said I could just get a wig or something and had actually brought his shaver kit. He was unboxing it when I told him it was not happening. I don't even really know his relative that he's doing this for, so I'm not doing it. End of discussion. He called me a jerk and he left angry. We didn't speak for a week. Then last Saturday, I got invited to a party at another close friend's house. There, I found out that Gary had tried the same thing on several other friends, and only a couple of them actually did shave their heads. Gary wasn't at the party, so I had a blast hanging out, playing video games, and listening to rock music. But I had way too much to drink and I couldn't drive home, so they said I could just sleep upstairs. I passed out on a bed, and it was a blissful sleep until I was shaken awake by another friend who told me Gary had showed up late and they caught him shaving my head while I was asleep. I saw what I looked like in a mirror and I wanted to scream like I was in a horror movie. Gary even shaved off one of my eyebrows. Gary was still there and acting proud of himself, saying, "Now you're gonna have to shave off the rest, just like me." I was furious and I called the cops. When they got there, Gary fully admitted to what he had done to me and even said he was justified. The police didn't seem to think so, as this is classified as a form of assault. They asked me if I wanted to press charges, and the first words out of my mouth were, "Heck yes." Gary lost it on me while they took him away in handcuffs. I tried getting my hair restyled into something presentable, but there was no saving it, and now I'm bald too. Now a bunch of Gary's family are telling me to drop the charges because Gary was off his meds and didn't mean to do it. I was like, what? Because I never knew he was on meds. But I still refuse to drop the charges. It'll take months to grow my hair back the way it was, but all of the calls and messages from Gary's relatives are starting to get to me. Just about everyone else in our friend group has cut Gary out though, and they say that I'm doing the right thing by not dropping the charges, so now I'm divided. Am I the jerk for pressing charges on a former friend for shaving my head in my sleep? Edit. I want to make something clear here. So many people have said things like, "Dude, it's just hair." But would they all be saying that if I wasn't a man? What if I was a girl that had hair that took years to grow? Would they be saying the same thing? Sure, hair grows back, but it takes time. If it was something that grew back fast, people would be less inclined to care. But it's not fast. It takes months. And for some who have long hair, years. That's a lot of time wasted growing. And I don't plan on pushing for Gary to go to prison, but I don't plan to drop the charges either. His family already bailed him out, and while I didn't know he was on meds, I knew he had quite the temper and even an entitled attitude at times. One example being a lunch where he wanted us all to combine the checks and split it evenly. He got the most expensive thing on the menu. I got a cheeseburger. When we all said no, Gary went off on us for not being good friends. He's always been a jerk when he doesn't get his way, and I've only known him for like 3 years. This incident was the last straw, not just for me, but for a lot of our other mutual friends as well. As for the charges, I don't want to send Gary to prison, but I would like him to at least get therapy and community service. With the way Gary has acted around me in the past and what he did to me, I actually wonder how long before he gets more violent. I've seen and heard of him getting in fights for less. Edit 2. I've got many comments from people saying, "You're the jerk, he has cancer." If you actually read what I posted, Gary's not the one who has cancer. It's a relative of his that I don't even know. And no, I don't know what kind of cancer. Gary didn't elaborate. He wanted me to shave my head for this person, and when I refused, he left in a tantrum, then shaved my head while I was passed out drunk at a party. Update. Gary was also described as a neckbeard by multiple people, including women he flirted with. He tried to get a married neighbor woman that was older than him to have an affair with her, and then later egged her apartment door when she refused. That one I only learned about a couple of months after my original post. And no, Gary never saw consequences for doing that either. I also learned he stole several video games and DVDs from friends, mooched food and drink out of their fridges, and even went through a period as a squatter for 2 months by refusing to leave a house he'd been let into by a former tenant, and the landlord actually paid him to leave. Gary's also an extreme hypocrite that contradicted himself more than a corrupt politician. Gary's family harassed me and tried to make me drop the charges. I not only didn't drop the charges, but I reported the harassment to the police. Only problem is that it didn't stop. In fact, it got worse, mainly from Gary's mother, whom I can see where Gary got his charming personality from. She showed up to my apartment a couple of weeks after the shaving incident to scream at me that I knew nothing about what they were going through, and a little hair wasn't a big deal. I told her my hair was a big deal to me, and what Gary did was inexcusable. Well, that earned me a slap in the face, followed by a swift kick and a few more kicks after I went down. It was all recorded by a camera that I had watching the front door. Landlord wouldn't let me put in a Ring doorbell. One of my neighbors saw her and screamed at her that they're calling the police. Gary's mom ran, and I ended up going to the hospital with minor injuries. Gary's mother got arrested, and I filed a lawsuit against her for attacking me. I saw her in court twice for both her assault on me and the lawsuit I filed for her assault. This woman had taken several self-defense classes over the years, so she knew how to fight. That had the judge consider her a trained individual, and she was sentenced to 6 months in jail, given 2 years probation, and ordered to pay my medical bills. She actually cried to the judge about the money, but he wasn't having it. It took some time to see her in court again for my lawsuit against her, as she was out of jail by then. I was awarded $10,000 for the harassment, emotional damages, and lost work hours, and she had to pay all court and lawyer fees, which she cried about again because she didn't want to pay anything to the man who had ruined her and her son's lives. But she had the money for both court cases because she had no problem paying. But around that time, I heard Gary's relative with cancer had passed. I don't know any details, just that they passed. I admit, that was sad, but I never knew this person. But Gary made their condition his hill to die on when he tried to make an example out of me. Gary got some probation and community service for what he did to my hair, and he cut contact with our entire friend group and eventually moved away. Where to? I don't know. I don't care either. As for my hair, well, it grew back just fine. Took nearly half a year to get it back how it was. My boss had me put out of sight for a while, and I was wearing a hat everywhere for at least a month. I did take that $10,000 I got in the lawsuit and combined it with my savings for a down payment on a house, so I've since moved into a much better abode. I also have a girlfriend now that's living with me. It was a bit soon for her to move in, but there were extenuating circumstances. We're making it work, and I'm happy. I, 28 male, cheated on my girlfriend who's 30 of 5 years with my best friend's sister who's 21. I'm still in love with my ex. To be honest, I don't remember much of that night. All I remember is that I woke up with my best friend's sister, ABC, in my bed. I don't even remember her coming to the party. I was living a nightmare of my own making because I loved my girlfriend, now ex, and I didn't know what to do. I told ABC to be quiet and let me think of what to do. I felt crappy and the guilt was killing me, but I was too cowardly to confess. Anyways, 3 weeks later, on Christmas Day, ABC told me that she was now pregnant. I knew that I had to step up. I told my ex that I wanted to break up with her, and I started dating ABC officially. We got engaged on Valentine's Day because ABC told me that it was important to her to be married before having the baby. I know that too because I know my friend's family are very conservative. We had to at least be engaged before breaking the news to them that we were expecting. ABC lost the pregnancy last week, and it's been tough. I've never been so miserable in my life. I feel bad because of what happened, and very guilty because I felt relief. I still love my ex, and I can't believe how my life changed because of one drunk mistake. I was supposed to propose to my ex this Valentine's Day, and I even had the ring that I saved for 3 years for. ABC was angry that she didn't get the ring because she knew I was saving for this ring. I wanted to call my ex and confess everything to her. I know I can't have her back, but I want her to at least know that I still love her, but that I needed to do the right thing and atone for my mistake. I really want to do that, but my sister, who knows everything, told me to just let her go. Any advice? Update. Thank you all for reaching out to me. I've been busy. I have confronted my fiancé, ex, and my best friend, her brother, about what happened. That I didn't remember any of it. A lot of it fell into place. I realized that I was taken advantage of. They weren't very understanding, and my friend accused me of using his sister and now wanting an out. I felt then and there that this was the end of the friendship. My sister also thought me weird for feeling I had been used, and however I tried to explain, she couldn't understand my feelings. I've decided not to engage with her in this subject again. When I broke off my engagement, my family wasn't happy about it. They don't know any of the details, but at the same time, they respected my decision, if reluctantly. They loved my ex-fiancé, and I've started therapy, and it's helping. I finally want to say that I've spoken to my ex. I told her everything and how sorry I was for hurting her. I left out the part that I still love her and never really stopped loving her, because I didn't want her to think that I had any other motives than saying I'm sorry. She's the one I hurt the most, and yet she was the one who believed me without any hesitation. Believed everything I told her, and she repeated what many of you who supported me here thought, that I had been taken advantage of. She has been my support with the therapy, and she even came to some of my sessions. I don't think she wants me back as a partner, and I won't ask it of her. I'm just glad I have her friendship. She's been my rock and my blanket, and I couldn't ask for better. You cheated on your girlfriend of 5 years. You knocked up the woman you cheated on. She miscarried. Now you're feeling all kinds of guilt and remorse? Because you are guilt-ridden and finally have remorse, you want to get in touch with your ex, the woman you had been in a relationship for 5 years with, to explain? How selfish and self-centered are you? You are wanting to do this to make yourself feel better. Leave her alone already. Why does it sound like the little sister found out she was pregnant and decided to go for the guy she really liked, OP, to get him on the hook for it? Am I wrong in thinking this way? I think romance novels and Reddit may have ruined my thinking when it comes to situations like this. Am I the jerk for having an outburst at my girlfriend's little sister and banning her from staying with us? I've lived with my girlfriend Sarah for 2 years now. Sarah has a 16-year-old sister, Tara. Tara lives with their parents, but Sarah and Tara have a very rocky relationship with their parents. Nothing too bad, but it is toxic nonetheless. For the last 6 months or so, Tara has begun staying over at the apartment that me and Sarah share. I've always been somewhat uncomfortable with this, mainly because it's common for Sarah, who works from home, to let Tara skip school and come spend the day with her. She says it's better than her being on the streets, but I digress. My biggest problem is that Tara trashes the place and has no respect for me. Tara does not like me. I don't know why. Sarah does not know why. She's incredibly disrespectful to me and my things, eats my food despite being told not to on a nearly weekly basis, and borrows things from the apartment with no intent to ever return them. I've been at my wit's end over this for the last month, and I feel like Tara is testing my limits more and more. I've talked to both of them and let them know if something doesn't change soon, I will lose my cool. But every conversation ends with Sarah committing to things that never happen and Tara being non-committal or just disinterested in my feelings. It came to a head Friday. Sarah had gotten off work early and left Tara alone. I came home to the place absolutely trashed. This I could handle. What I could not handle was that Tara had pulled out some of my vinyls to listen to, scratched them up, and just left them out on the ground and the table when she got bored. When I confronted her and asked what happened, she just shrugged her shoulders and said nothing. I absolutely lost it. I told her absolutely what I thought of her, how she was selfish, ungrateful, lazy, and downright unpleasant. I made the comment that if this is how she is at home, I now know why her parents don't want her in their house. I could tell she was taken off guard by my yelling, and the parents' comment caused her to start crying. I kicked her out and told her not to come back. Sarah lost it and we fought. We've been pretty cold since then. She's talking about moving out, but at this point, I'm starting to consider that myself. Last night, however, Sarah finally decided to tell me that Tara tried to run away last year, and she made a deal with her that our apartment could be her safe space whenever she needed, so she didn't run away again. I still don't feel like this makes what she did right, but at the same time, knowing this, I'm starting to feel bad. Not the jerk. Your girlfriend didn't tell you that she was declaring your home a safe space and did nothing to encourage Tara to behave like a guest rather than a squatter. Tara needs more than just a safe space. Safe space doesn't mean you can trash the place. Am I the jerk for asking my parents to leave the parenting to my wife and I, but not doing the same with my in-laws? I, 26 male, have a 3-month-old son with my wife who's 24. He's our first. I have a good relationship with my parents. However, they, especially my mom, have a difficult time respecting my boundaries, and they were a bit overprotective of me growing up. I'm their only kid, so naturally they're going to feel overprotective of me. While I wouldn't go as far as to describe my mom as a helicopter parent, she seemed to have a hard time allowing me to make mistakes. She would want to have a say in anything I was doing and offer advice whether I wanted it or not. When I was little, this was totally understandable, but as I grew up, it became very annoying. When I moved out, I told her that now that I'm grown up, she needs to respect my boundaries as well as accept that I might do certain things differently from how she does. I've requested that she please ask me if I want help or advice with anything, and to please respect my wishes if I say no. She seems to have a very hard time with this. She'll reluctantly say that she'll try to do that, but honestly, I don't think she's making enough effort. We've argued about this many times. It really feels like she doesn't trust me. When my son was born, I asked both of my parents to please leave the parenting up to me and my wife, and if we need help, we'll ask. They agreed, though my mom seemed reluctant. Now, I didn't think it was my place to ask my in-laws to do this because they're her parents and not mine. I told her that if she would like her parents' help or advice with raising our son, it was fine with me, and the decision of how much or how little involvement her parents had was up to her. I'm also more comfortable with my wife's parents because she's the youngest of 4 kids, and therefore they have more experience as parents. They know when it's appropriate to offer help and when they should take a step back. Anyways, today we're having a barbecue for the 4th of July. That was a good one, right? We invited both of our families. It was the first time we've all been in the same room since our wedding. My mom saw how much my in-laws were helping with our son, feeding him, changing him, putting him down for a nap, etc. They're mainly doing this because my wife was busy in the kitchen. My parents took me aside and asked why I wanted my in-laws' help but not theirs. I told her the reasons. Dad took it pretty well. He enjoys being a fun grandpa, but my mom is very hurt. Now I feel bad. I was looking forward to a fun day with our families, but now I'm feeling guilty. My mom basically is just standing around doing nothing and looks hurt. My feelings of wanting her to leave the parenting up to me and my wife haven't changed, but I don't know how to express this without upsetting her. Honestly, I'm kind of wishing everyone would just go home. Am I the jerk for telling my parents to leave the parenting up to me and my wife, yet leaving the decision on how much my in-laws are involved up to my wife because I didn't feel it was my place? It's one thing to say that you want your parents to stay out of any parenting decisions, but it sounds like you've pretty much asked them to not lay their hands on him. Feeding and changing are basic care. Why can't they help with that? It sounds like your mom is trying to stay within the boundaries that you've set, but she's upset that your in-laws don't have the same or any boundaries. I can understand why she's upset. Your kids are your parents' only chance to be grandparents, and you've decided they're not going to get much of a chance to do anything. You complained that your mom was too controlling in your childhood. It seems the apple didn't fall far from the tree. Find a better balance. You're the jerk. I'm going with not the jerk. Some people don't know when to quit, so it's best not to let them get started. It could also be in how the advice is delivered. We tried to let all of our parents do the same things with our son, but it wasn't working out. Some weren't good with safety, some ignored how we wanted things done, etc. It sounds more like your mom doesn't treat you as an adult, or at least struggles to, and your wife's family doesn't have that issue. That's going to cause some problems. I would maybe sit down with your mom and tell her that as she gets better with understanding and respecting your boundaries, you two, 3 with your wife, can reevaluate what you're comfortable with. Management thought they didn't need me. Turns out they decided to try and sue me. Some context. This company wasn't new. They had been around for about a decade before I was hired, and as far as I know, they're still around, but not sure how they're doing now. When I started there, it was only about 60 employees, which 15 to 20 were just hourly wage nobodies like me. I just had the luck of the draw that my team had 4 managers over my area. I was in a role that wasn't supposed to have any management elements, but turns out not long after I started, a few of the management team moved on and I slowly took over some of their responsibilities. After about 6 months, I was starting to feel overworked and I went job hunting. Having listed the responsibility I got with this position got me a management role somewhere else with substantially higher pay. I even got them to let me have a month before starting because I wanted to give a longer notice than 2 weeks to be nice. After I had given my 1-month notice, they were very dismissive of me leaving and acted like it wasn't a big deal. They thought they could spread out what I did among the other management teams. They were so certain that they could handle my job description of responsibilities that they even told me in writing they didn't need a transition period or training and didn't want an exit interview. They even offered me a week early leave with pay because they just thought it was handled and that I was useless. Before that week was out, I was getting calls, texts, and emails from higher-ups and HR trying to tell me that I'm contractually obligated to help them transition and that if I didn't, that they would sue me for breach of contract. Now, the best part of this is that when I was hired, I was simply an hourly employee with no special contract, besides the standard employee agreement for hourly workers. But since I had started doing management-level work, everyone had assumed that I was made to sign the management contract, which had a clause in it that required management to work past their notice if the company requested it for handover training or anything the person was working on that couldn't be finished by anyone else. So within a week, they were frantically trying to get me to help them, and I had already started working with my new company half a week early, so I was ignoring their calls, texts, and emails because I was diving headfirst into my new role. Well, even after the threats, I thought they would have figured out that I didn't sign that contract. About another week later, I was served papers at my new office, and it shocked me honestly. I read over the paperwork, and they were suing me for breach of contract, and it listed a law firm on it, obviously. So I decided to call them up and ask them if they had a signed contract, and I was laughed off the phone by the law office clerk. I realized I shouldn't have called them, and I should have gotten my own lawyer. Just 3 days later, I received a certified letter from the law firm with an official apology for being served and had official documentation showing they dropped the lawsuit. And apparently, they dropped that company as a client for unethical practices. I never got another text, call, or email from anyone at that company or law firm. It felt nice that I shut down a lawsuit with a single question. Karen scams customers, gets busted, and goes to jail. My daughter, Amber, has been challenging since birth. She's never displayed any signs of empathy or remorse and is completely uncaring about anything other than her own wants. We did everything we could when she was growing up: therapy, specialists, and regular contact with experts in her disorder. Amber studied well, but drifted away from us as soon as she got her first job. She kept in touch, but rarely visited. Amber ran a scheme which targeted several elderly, disabled, and vulnerable people and tricked them into giving away money. A few of them ended up passing with nothing left, and Amber got some heavy criminal charges as a result. Amber was found guilty at trial, and ahead of her sentencing next month, the judge denied her bail because she won't be getting anything other than prison time. I visited her yesterday to see how she was coping and to see if she needed anything. Amber excitedly told me that some friends and people who used to work for her had brought her clothes to wear to court. She said she planned to go to her sentencing in red pants and a tailored suit. I was completely shocked. Obviously, she should wear something smart to court, but a tailored suit and designer shoes looks like she's some big businesswoman, and it's sending all the wrong messages and doesn't exactly suggest she's humble or remorseful. Amber's argument was that she's looking at a long sentence no matter what, and so she might as well go out with style. I was sickened, and I made it clear that if she shows up dressed to the nines, she won't be getting any support from me when she's in there or when she comes out. I said she'll never see me again, but she didn't particularly care. My husband sees my point, but he says that I know who and what our daughter is. He says we all know she isn't capable of remorse and that it shouldn't be fair to withdraw support because of that. I'm well aware of that, but she at least has to try. How will it look to the people she scammed if she shows up for sentencing in expensive clothes that she purchased by destroying their finances? The least she can do is look humble and look like she knows what she did was wrong. My husband thinks withholding support is too far. I disagree. She's my daughter and I will always love her, but her crime was horrific, and if she doesn't regret it, The very least she can do is try to look like she does to give comfort to the people she hurt. If she shows up to court in expensive clothes, she will never see or hear from me again. Am I the jerk? The fact it's her clothes that make you want to cut her off and not her behavior is really odd. Am I the jerk for wanting my husband to cancel his trip? My husband, who's 27, has been planning a trip for about 4 years with some close friends. The trip kept being postponed due to some of his friends having family issues, financial issues, and unfortunate world events. My husband is finally going to be able to leave within 2 months. The issue I, 21 female, have with that is that I'm pregnant and he's leaving near my due date. This is my first baby and I don't want to go through childbirth alone. I don't have family other than my husband. My dad has passed and my mom is mentally ill. I just want his support throughout the process, but he's making me feel really bad for asking him to postpone just his trip so that he can be here for his daughter and I. He told me that it's honestly not that big of a deal. He said when he was at the hospital for his son from a previous relationship that the birth only took an hour and that the nurses were very supportive. I also don't want to care for his son after I come home from the hospital alone. He plans on being away for a month and has sole custody. His son goes to his mom's every other weekend, but that's all. Sometimes his mom won't even show up. He hasn't made any plans on where his son is going to go after I come home from the hospital. His sister agreed to take him while I'm in the hospital, but she can't do any longer than that as she has a full-time job and doesn't want to take too much time off work. He told me I'll be able to handle everything by myself and begged me to drop the issue because he's been planning this for so long and he's really excited to go. He even offered to pay me for all the hardships and told me that women take care of their kids after coming home from the hospital all the time. I do understand that this wasn't exactly planned, and I feel awful about the whole situation. A huge part of me wants to just drop the issue and find a way to deal with everything by myself. I mean, his friends are calling me a jerk and saying that I'm spoiling everyone's fun. Am I the jerk here? I put vegetables in all of my food so my roommate's kid would stop eating it. The mom got upset. I, 26 female, live in a rented house with a single mother, 30 female, and her son who's 6. I had another person living with me, but they moved out, and that was when my current roommate, the mother, moved in. I don't mind living with her and her kid. It's fine, and we kind of both do our own thing. I spend a lot of time at my boyfriend's place or working. Our work schedules collide, so we really don't interact much, but when we do, it's fine. No issues there. I want to start by saying that she clearly struggles financially, but I don't think it's an excuse. I don't make lots of money either. However, I've noticed that my food would go missing or portions would be taken out from it. I assumed it was her kid, so I asked her if she'd stop him from eating my food. I was calm about it, and she just said she would. It didn't really upset me when it first started. It started getting annoying though when I'd get home from work and expect to have a meal's worth of leftovers in the fridge only to see it picked through or just gone. I kept bringing it up and she started getting annoyed with me bringing it up. Just from observing them, I realized that neither of them eat vegetables, and judging by the food that would get picked through and the food that would be untouched, anything with green in it was avoided. Orange chicken would be gone through, but chicken and broccoli would be untouched. So I started putting vegetables in everything. I find vegetables to be delicious, and anything green or not a potato does not get eaten. So I could mix some bell peppers into the food and it would be fine. I make a big portion of vegetables pretty frequently anyway, so I just started putting it in everything I eat. If I had leftover mashed potatoes, I'd pour green beans in and mix it up. If I had leftover cheesy bacon fries, I'd pour broccoli all over it and mix it in. Usually my homemade stuff has vegetables in it, but I started making sure everything did. I made a pot of mac and cheese, the kids' favorite, and poured in roasted Brussels sprouts, which is actually delicious to me, and I'm eating more vegetables, so it's a win-win. She had been seeming annoyed, but we were all home when I made the pot of mac and cheese. She was in the living room and saw me get out the Brussels sprouts and was like, "What are you going to do with that?" And I poured them in. She said I was being greedy and annoying. I just said, "I like Brussels sprouts," and that was it. She said, "We need food." And I told her to go get some, or stop buying only prepackaged things and your money will go further. I think she sees this as some big act of revenge, but I just simply want to be able to eat my own food. Also want to add that sharing is not the issue. Often I'd get home after working a long day expecting to have a meal's worth of food and it would all be gone. Or I wake up in a rush and had my food ready to eat in the morning only to find it gone. So now I have to skip breakfast. If she would simply text sometimes, "Hey, is it okay if we eat your food?" I would know, and then I could make other plans. I would stop for food or know that I have to whip something up when I get home. Also, I think eating the last of someone else's food is crazy and rude. If someone makes a big pot of something and you ask for a serving, sure. But if someone made something and there's one serving left and you eat it without permission, that's just not right. My fiancé, 27 female, is threatening to call off the wedding if I, male 26, don't let her parents move in with us after the wedding. Obviously, this comes off as a rich people problem, but up until 5 months ago, I was still living in a one-bedroom apartment working at a rather large supermarket retail store, making $12 an hour, and going to be paying off college debt until I was in my 60s. My fiancé is still working her nursing job, and we've been fully living together for 4 years. Some background into our relationship. We met 6 years ago. There were literally zero issues with us dating. When it came to some sort of conflict, we'd sit down, explain both of our sides like adults, and generally fix the problem. We've rarely gotten into arguments and have the same end goals in life: to have kids, grow old together, die and be buried next to each other, and have fun whenever we can. I've always had an incredibly distant relationship with her parents. When she introduced me to them, they both stated they didn't like me to my face and thought I wasn't good enough. Her father even said, "Not in my lifetime," when I asked for his permission to marry his daughter, which I stated the only reason I was doing it was for an olive branch. My parents, on the other hand, love my fiancé. They scooped her up like she was one of us from the start, has never said anything bad about her in public, nor have they in private. They absolutely love her. During my grandfather's decline in health, I was the first one there. He just got old, and with being old comes complications. I stopped working my higher-paying job to work retail to have more time to take care of him, because his other kids were busy. This was a very stressful time in our relationship. I had just recently left my job, was not around often, and I myself was super stressed. Recently, I began the slow move of everything over there. While we still have to live in our apartment until the lease agreement is up, there's nothing against the rules of me moving stuff. I brought it up to my girlfriend how taking care of my grandfather has really made me realize how important my family is, and that I wanted to know if it was okay for my parents to move into the new house with us. My dad could retire, and my mom can spend the rest of her life relaxing, not stressing over bills and debt, because I can pay that off over time. I'm not insane enough to pay it all in one go. She expressed how that was an amazing idea, and how she'd like her parents to move in as well. I laughed at the idea and asked her if she was serious, and why would I want to live in a house with people I don't like, nor want to interact with. She explained that this could be a good chance at us healing old wounds and making amends. I explained that not only do I not want to heal old wounds, if it were up to me, they wouldn't be coming to the wedding. Obviously, this was the wrong thing to say, and now she's giving me the ultimatum of, let them move in or the wedding is off. While I can understand her side, I seriously do not want to interact with them in any capacity. They've tried numerous times to get her back with exes, lie about me, even spread a rumor about me being unfaithful, until I pulled up real evidence of me being nowhere near where they said I was thanks to Google location. My fiancé knows all of this and still wants to try and rebuild a relationship with them. This past week, I've been avoiding her with excuses and white lies. I've been meeting with accountants, lawyers, wedding venue people, and jewelers. I've also been spending all-nighters at my grandfather's grave drinking with him and not getting back home until 4 a.m. To me, it feels like my grandfather is still the only person I can vent my deepest secrets and frustrations to. Which is why I've come to you, Reddit. I feel trapped. On one hand, I do not want to live with people I absolutely hate, and on the other hand, I do not want to lose the woman of my dreams. I want a third party's opinion on the matter, with no connection to me whatsoever, as I feel it's the best way to make a good judgment without people close to me influencing my choices. I really didn't understand the "she clearly isn't with me for my money" in the opening paragraph, because OP, she is with you for your money. There are a lot of subtle ways to be with someone for their money without making an outright demand for it. She could be planning to quit her job, pay zero expenses and keep her funds to the side, have herself and her parents live in your house for free. There are many problems. The ultimatum is a huge one, but further than that is you might not have recourse to make her parents leave once they've established residency in your home. And what about bills? I'm thinking their contribution will be zero. Will they keep the proceeds from selling their house, quit their jobs, expect you to pay all expenses? You'll end up paying for 6 people living off you and your money. Do you want to buy their groceries, pay their utilities? What about spending money? Will your wife be handing them money behind your back to keep it fair? Who pays their car, medical, retirement, care when they're older, to go on trips? This absolutely will ruin your relationship. It does not take a psychic to see this. They dislike you. They don't respect you. Do you think they'll respect your home, your money? This path is fraught with challenges. Seek financial advice. Also, why didn't one of your parents get money? Did they also abandon your grandfather? Do you want to care for them for the rest of your life? I'd reassess that as well. Maybe set up a trust with stipulations that they can live independently. It's your money, do with it in regards to your parents what you will. But you do not owe her parents or yours a free ride. OP. My parents would keep the proceeds from selling their house as I have no need for it. Utilities are not an issue. I own the water rights to a natural aquifer and spring underground. As for power, a lot of it's solar energy, which can keep the house going non-stop as long as it's charged. My grandfather was one of those doomsday crazy old guys. I knew about the hunting cabin, I just didn't think it was this big or advanced, so I'll literally never need to pay anything on the property other than tax. I plan to have my parents enter a renting contract. They'd be able to rent out their area and live on the property, use its land or whatever for $1 a month, just in case they upset me so I can evict them. As for insurance, my dad served 23 years in the military, and my mom, being his wife, gets that insurance as well. Unless they run out of money, they'll be paying their own insurance. While technically speaking, I'd be buying their groceries, my father and I love to hunt and fish, so a lot of our food will be produced on our own. Mom has always wanted a garden, and she can't grow one in the city. Also, no, they wouldn't go on trips with us. As for the hypothetical, if her parents did move in, I wouldn't be paying for anything, and they'd be paying me the real price to live on the property, and extra because I don't like them. You might think California rent is high. The auditor I hired to see the value of the estate valued rent for a room at an extraordinary level of money. Thank goodness Grandpa bought this land when milk cost your left shoelace and a blueberry. My parents got money. It was nowhere near what I got, but they got a fair share. They didn't abandon my grandfather. In fact, they visited as often as they could, given my dad's work schedule and the distance. It was never viable to visit more than once or twice a year. The only reason I was so close was because I went to college in the same state where he lived and stayed because of my fiancé. I've already been working closely with accountants and lawyers who've all projected me moving in my parents and living with them for the next 30 to 40 years of my life will not dent my money in any significant way. I've already invested money and put money into accounts to generate interest. I won't be losing money unless I buy mega yachts, jets, helicopters, supercars. I don't expect her parents to respect me, my money, or my home. I've thought in great detail how my parents would be independent of my finances, and my parents have never done me wrong, never given up on me, and encouraged me my entire life. The least I can do is make the rest of theirs something they never dreamed would come true. My dad would have had to work until he passed to provide for my mom and take care of the debt they acquired to live and take care of me. I want them to be happy, and I want them to be close. Update. I've postponed the wedding. While some of you may refer to it as calling her bluff, I call it waiting and seeing. As of right now, we're really talking about how compatible we truly are, going over our goals in life again, and talking in depth about the relationship we want with our in-laws if we get married. Apparently, a lot had changed since the last time we talked about it. Before I got money, as some of you called it. 2. Yes, she genuinely thought moving her parents in would make my relationship with them better over time. I've expressed that as a result of all they've said and done to me, any positive relationship or communication with them will only be done out of necessity. For example, if she were pregnant, in the hospital, or any life-altering complication or celebration. She did not take this well, but that was expected. But it's important I tell the truth. She believes I'll come around and try to build a relationship with her parents, but as of right now, I can't see myself doing it. My parents won't be moving in, as I haven't even asked them yet. I know some of you were confused and assumed it was already happening. It was not. I asked if it was okay if they could, not telling her it was happening. Some of you suggested that maybe moving them in as newlyweds was weird and suggested building them a small house on the property. I didn't think about that, and will talk to my accountant and parents about it whenever that conversation needs to be talked about. Nice idea. What have I been doing? A lot of meetings about my future, finances, and setting up trusts and wills. I'll be re-enrolling into school to take classes on business, finance, accounting, and economics as my accountant suggested I do. We're still working on a budget, but as of right now, my next steps are furthering my education to manage my newfound wealth and opportunity in a healthy way and to not blow it. As of right now, to be honest, I'm emotionally drained. I think the weight of my grandfather's passing is finally hitting me despite it being months later, and the only thing that kept me going was the idea of the wedding day. With that being postponed, I can really only focus on myself, my values, and my emotions. Staying up all night and drinking at a gravesite isn't healthy, and I've not only promised myself to cut back, but also to not stay up drinking. I've been thinking about maybe getting into some sort of therapy or grief counseling, but I need to make sure that's in the budget with my accountant, as that's a long-term thing. Maybe they know someone. Update. There's not much to say. We sat down and talked for a while. I explained my side of things, she explained hers. She was upset I was postponing the wedding, but once she realized I wasn't going to fold, she agreed under the notion that it was best for our relationship to work on this before marriage. Right now, I'm taking a step back from her to clear the air and give us time to formulate what we want on our own. I've driven the 2 hours to the cabin. Thankfully, the internet people hooked that up yesterday. I've talked to my parents, not about them moving in, but about the situation as a whole. While my dad can't just abandon his job, he sends his love and support. My mom is currently making the 18-hour drive, so I wouldn't be alone by myself. I've gotten attempted phone calls from my in-laws within the last 24 hours, but I've watched them ring and went back to doing my everyday tasks like lawn work, meal prep, reading, and binge-watching Netflix. It's strange, but right now I feel happier alone right now than I do with my fiancé. Maybe it's some sign that it's not meant to be, or that I've finally been able to relax for the first time in years and have found comfort in solitude. Maybe I'm happy my mom is going to cook me my favorite dinner to cheer me up. I think as of right now though, I have a lot of work to do, not only emotionally, but also literally. I'm thinking about doing some telework just to still have a mainstream of income part-time, as I'll probably get bored of being jobless in about a week. I need some hobbies. My sister's life is falling apart, and I'm happy. So my sister, Ursula, who's 43, yes, I'm using a villain's name, has always made my life horrible. She's extremely manipulative and she's a narcissist. Ursula will be nice to me when she needs something, but then will ignore me. Growing up, I always thought that we were really good sisters. We didn't have the typical sister fights of one being jealous of the other. Now as an adult, when I think about it, I think she hated me. She would always give me backhanded compliments like, "Your face looks better with your glasses." Growing up, I always wanted to be like her. She was everyone's favorite. She was helpful and kind, or at least that's what she made us believe. She would always make me feel insecure about my looks and people I date. The first boyfriend I had when I was 17, she made me believe that he wasn't good enough for me, blah blah blah. I broke up with him. I know, my fault. I moved out of state for college. My sister went to business school while I studied engineering. I would come home from holidays and would still have to hear all her backhanded compliments. When I was 21, I started dating my ex-husband, Jordan. My sister was dating someone else at that time, so I guess her focus didn't fall on Jordan. Also, Jordan was not her type. We dated for 3 years and tied the knot. For 4 years, I've been happy with my life. During that time, my sister announces she's pregnant. We all thought she got pregnant by her then boyfriend, Remy. One day, I went to visit her and bring some food for pregnancy. She gave me a key to her place, and I went inside without knocking. I had permission from her. The surprising thing I saw was Jordan's shoes outside. I went inside her room because I was feeling a bit suspicious, and yeah, you guessed it. Long story short, I divorced Jordan. I was still in pain and very devastated. My parents supported me, but their focus shifted way more towards my sister and Jordan. Yes, she was pregnant with his baby. It was painful to see them together. I never got a sorry from either of them. They were like, crap happens. I moved away from home 8 years ago. I got a contract to work in England. I moved there. It was a fresh start of my life. I met Peter, who was a single dad. We fell in love and got married, and we have a son together. I don't have contact with my sister. I have very low contact with my dad, who gives me all the insight. Jordan and Ursula got married and had 2 more kids. That's all I know about them, until recently. Jordan cheated on Ursula, and they are having a nasty fight about it. The cherry on top is that 2 of their kids are not Jordan's, so Ursula hasn't been faithful at all. My dad told me it's a mess. Jordan and Ursula will get a divorce, but she's pressing for alimony. I hung up the phone and made myself a drink. I'm glad I'm thousands of miles away from all that drama. My mom had called me too and said that she needs me. I'm not sure if I'll go or not. As much as I love to enjoy seeing Ursula's life shattering in front of me, I'm not sure if I want to engage in that drama. Edit. Some people are curious and want to know everything, so I added more details. My sister was cheating on Remy. Remy was a really sweet guy. He was very devastated when he heard that my sister is not pregnant with his baby, rather it was Jordan's. Remy moved on and had a wonderful wife afterwards. I still follow him on Instagram. My parents were mad at Ursula, but she, being a manipulative jerk, convinced everyone that Jordan coerced her and that he said he would divorce me if she didn't hook up with him. She made it seem like she was saving my marriage by hooking up with my husband. Classic. I got married in London. My relatives couldn't come because of the long distance, but my father did. Mom couldn't because at that time she had back surgery. Update. So I've landed on the soil of my home country with my husband and son. My mom and dad received me from the airport. I was so happy to meet them after so many years. Their faces looked pale as if they hadn't eaten or slept in a long time. My mom was happy to meet my husband and kid, especially my kid because she hasn't met him yet. I asked them not to tell my sister that I'm here. I'm only here for a few weeks and then I'll be gone. I'm currently staying with my aunt. Now on to some insights about my sister. My mom said she's living with her along with her kids. I got some details on my sister. She was having an affair with her former boss who is married, and those 2 kids are actually his. From what I'm hearing, the company her boss works in actually belongs to boss's father-in-law. So yeah, her boss is going to be jobless. And my sister has switched jobs way before this happened, but the affair continued. But because of all this drama, she's literally on the edge to lose her new job too, because the company's owner is good friends with boss's wife. So you can imagine the kind of quicksand she's put her foot into. Jordan has quit his job too, because he's adamant on not paying my sister alimony and not wanting to pay child support for the kids that belong to the boss. He will be suing the boss for child support as well. They constantly fight a lot. Jordan is losing his mind because of it, according to my mom, and he was also having an affair with his coworker. My mom wants to kick my sister out, but because of her kids, she can't. She can't stand her, but she doesn't want to punish her kids because they're innocent. Honestly, I feel bad for those kids too. They do not deserve such a mess of parents. Also, just so you know, my parents aren't bad. They've supported me a lot. The only reason they still talk to my sister Ursula is because of her kids. I feel bad for mom because she only has a few days, and along with her illness, she probably will be too sick to deal with this. I know my sister will somehow know I'm here, but I'm prepared for that as well. I do not want to see her because I know I'll be dragged into her drama, but I will enjoy the few weeks I have with my husband and kid. I don't work here, and you're not a customer here. A new breed of Karen. A bit of background. I've been a manager in my line of work for over a decade now, and we deal with rude people all the time. I have zero patience for rude people, and I give it back exactly how it's given to me. At my work, I do the post office run each morning, dropping and collecting mail from our P.O. box. Great chance to get out of the office and create new, long ways to get back. Today, we had a parcel pickup slip in there. Nothing unusual with that. We get them all the time. So I collect the parcel and take it back to work with the other mail. When I get back to my desk, I notice that the parcel is from Amazon, addressed to someone who doesn't work here, but has our office P.O. box details. There's also a contact number for her on the parcel sticker. So, being the kind, caring gentleman that I am, I give her a call. It goes to her voicemail, so I leave a detailed message about the situation and how to contact me. Moments later, I get a call back on my desk phone. Me. Good afternoon. This is the company. How can I help you? Her. I had a missed call from this number, but I have no idea why you would be calling me, because I'm not interested in anything you're selling. Me. Oh no, that's okay. I don't want to sell you anything. We had a parcel in our P.O. box addressed to you. Did you want to come to our office to pick it up? Her. Why do you have a key to my P.O. box? Me. Well, actually, it's our P.O. box. We've had the same one for 3 years now, so... She explodes. No, it's my P.O. box, and that's illegal. Why do you have a key to my P.O. box? I want to speak to your manager. Me. Okay, go for it. I'm the manager. Her. Well, why do you have access to my mail? She yells the whole conversation, but I got sick of writing in all caps. Me. I don't. I have access to my mailbox. I go every day, and I've never seen your mail in there before. So explain to me why you think you have access to mine. You do realize that I'm from the company, right? Well, my P.O. box is... She explains the full address, which is almost our address as we have 2 post offices nearby, but hers needs the suburb name, East, added to it. Easy. Me. Oh, I understand now. Sorry. Well, yeah, looks like Amazon or Australia Post hasn't added that detail to the label sticker, so it's come to the main post office. Whoops. Trying to calm her down a bit. Well, when I made the order, I put my details in as I always do. That's how I have them saved on my Amazon profile too. So why did it get sent to you? Me, getting sick of going back and forth with her. How would I know, mate? I don't work for Amazon or the post office. I literally picked up our P.O. box mail and your parcel was in it. I didn't have to call, but I did. I have nothing to do with your mail or your order details. As I've said multiple times now, I'm from my company. Her. Well, this needs to be escalated, and you will need to drop that parcel at my house ASAP because it's urgent. Me. At this point, I think my nose started bleeding from my inner rage. What? What's not being understood here? Her. Well then, take my parcel back to the post office and tell them about the error. Me. I have no authority to take a parcel back and have them amend the address. Nope, not gonna happen. You need to come and get it from me, or I can take it back and they'll return it to Amazon. I probably could have done more, but really, forget her. This is urgent medicine I need. You buy urgent medicine from Amazon? And they mark it as beauty products on the customs declaration? Bit odd. That's none of your business. Yeah, exactly. None of this is my business. Now come and get your parcel and stop blowing up at me. Completely unacceptable behavior. I want to lodge a complaint. You're not a customer of ours. You have no grounds to a complaint. I'm trying to help you. Where is your office? I will come right now, and you better have some answers for me. Beautiful. Here's our office address. Can't wait to catch up. See you then. She hangs up. I imagine she slammed down her phone and absolutely obliterated it because of how angry she was. Her hands shaking from rage, she cleans the froth from the sides of her mouth, grabs her handbag, makes sure she's carrying her Karen ID, and heads to her new 4-wheel drive that she uses for only city travel. Myself and our other office staff share a great laugh over it. We're currently pacing the room waiting for her to get here. Everyone wants to witness this pure stupidity firsthand. That call was now 3 hours ago and she's still not here. But I'll keep you updated. Update. Okay, so I'm actually shaking it just went down. So here goes. Because my team are quite busy and I oversee their workloads, I sit closest, but still hidden, to the main foyer and reception area. I generally greet all the customers and take the majority of the calls to our office. My team has to focus on complex financial deals, and they don't need the distraction of people asking general questions who just walked in without an appointment. We keep an old-school desk bell on the reception counter, where no one sits, with a sign next to it asking to ring for assistance. Come 9:30 a.m., and I think I hear the bell. As you are all probably aware, normally when you ring a bell, you hit the top and instantly move your hand back to allow the vibration to create the noise. What I heard was the initial ding of the bell, but none of the vibrations or loudness. There was an angry, powerful, yet to be removed hand resting on the bell. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. She's here. I immediately lean back in my chair, which gives me an ample view of the reception area. I see a short woman in her 60s with glasses and surprisingly not a typical Karen haircut, already staring me down. I jump up and run out. Hello, how are you? You have my package. It's her. Me. Ah, yes, of course. Thanks for coming in. I'm OP, we talked on the phone. I extended my hand out to shake hers. I won't shake your hand. Sorry. At this moment, my mind is racing. Is she being rude? Is it a religious thing? How do I even respond to that moment? This has probably only happened twice in my life. Me. Okay, no problem. I'll grab your package. Just wait here a moment. I go back to my desk and retrieve the package from my drawer, which she can see me do. I walk back to her and she is again already at me. Where were you keeping the package? In my drawer. Not very secure? Why would it be? You're in my office, which you can clearly see is not a larger version of a P.O. box, or a larger version of a post office for that matter. Looking angry at me in silence like she wants a better explanation. Look, I'm actually having a lot of trouble understanding why you're being so rude about this. I held this package for you in good faith. I called you to let you know I had it, so you didn't have to go through the hassle. I get cut off. Well, it's the inconvenience of having to come here. My brain legit snapped. You're joking, right? You are the dumbest person I've ever had to deal with. Take your package and get out of my office. If I ever see another one of your packages with my mail, I'll throw it straight in the trash. Forget helping you again. Her. mumbling to herself while she grabs the package and digs for her keys from her handbag. Absolutely disgusting. Me. Yes, you are. You should reevaluate how you treat people that have tried to help you. She actually turned around to point and yell at me, but barely got through her sentence. Her. I will never deal with this company again. Me. You don't deal with us now, and we wouldn't want to deal with someone like you at all. What a crappy threat. Get out of my office. She stormed out. I watched her go to her car, which was parked in our maintenance driveway. This actually made me laugh so hard, and I'll explain why. Next to our main entrance is a maintenance driveway. Throughout the day, we'll have multiple contractor cars parked here to work on many levels of the building. In the time since she had come in, her car had been parked in by 2 utility vehicles bearing the building maintenance company name. The guys are just standing at their cars having a chat. I see her yelling at them to move their cars. They look at her and barely budge. She proceeds to get in her car, and I watch over the next few minutes as she continuously looks back and forth to see if they're moving their cars for her to get out. These maintenance guys start moving at an actual snail pace. One is even checking his phone while he walks to his driver's side door. I'm just laughing at this point, and the other guys in the office all come and they're watching it too. I kid you not, these guys took about 5 minutes to move their cars for her. She beeped at them about 4 times, drawing the attention of many people walking by. She finally got her car out, and as she was driving off, I walked outside and spoke to the maintenance guys and asked what she said to them. Maintenance guy in a thick Kiwi accent. Yeah, bro, she full came out and straight up told us to move our cars. They were of course unaware of who she was, so they got a good laugh at the story. Thinking back now, I'm pretty happy with the outcome, to be honest. I got to tell her some honest truths about the situation, and she obviously thought she could continue being a jerk. I must have caught her off guard. I really hope that's the last I see of her. Can't wait to tell my future kids and grandkids about her in the years to come. Am I the jerk for bringing eggs to a vegan wedding? I realize from the title I probably immediately sound like the jerk, but hear me out. So my 21 female brother, who's 26, got married last weekend. He and my new sister-in-law, who's 26, had known each other for a few years now, and naturally, I was invited to the wedding. She had been vegan since she was 12 and had also converted my brother in recent years, so they decided to make the wedding vegan. Basically, this meant that all the catering was vegan food, even the alcohol, and they used petals from their garden instead of plastic confetti and things like that to make the wedding as eco-friendly as possible. I have no problem with any of this, and I think it's great. Anyway, the problem is this. The issue I often have with eating anything anywhere is that I have multiple allergies. Peanuts, soy, sesame, and a mild shellfish allergy as well. The first 3 I named are very serious and have landed me in the hospital in the past because of cross-contamination, so I'm really weary. I talked to my brother about if there would be anything safe for me to eat at the event, but because they're using a local neighborhood ladies' business as the catering service instead of something professional, I did not feel comfortable enough that there was absolutely zero chance of me having a reaction, especially because the allergies were ingredients in many of the dishes. It felt too risky, so I said I'd bring my own food, and he agreed that that was the best option. I've done this with plenty of such events in the past, and it's never been a problem. The wedding day arrives, and it comes time to eat. Everyone is digging into the food, and I pull out my Tupperware quite happily, and I dig in when I see the bride staring at me with horror on her face. I had bought a homemade sort of salad box, which had 2 eggs on top, and she literally just stared at me in disgust the entire time we ate without saying anything. After the meal's finished, she pulled me to the side and said I ruined her meal and her appetite, and ruined her day, and that I'm clearly a selfish person because I can't even go 1 meal without animal secretions in a vegan wedding, and that it was seriously disrespectful because the fact that it was a vegan wedding was the main focus. In my eyes, I brought my own food because they weren't able to provide me with something which was safe to eat, and it's not like I brought in a steak. I had 2 eggs and a big salad, and she must have been specifically staring at my food to even realize they were there. However, I'm beginning to wonder if I'm the jerk, because my brother also said it was in poor taste and I should have brought something else. So, what are your thoughts? Am I the jerk? My girlfriend refuses to use soap, and I've had enough. On our very first date, something I noticed was that she didn't seem very concerned with cleanliness. Something to note is that masks were still mandatory where we lived, and so lockdown concerns were still very much a thing. We ended our date by grabbing a snack that she wanted us to bring back to her place. We got there, and she immediately started taking everything out without washing her hands. Maybe I'm just a clean freak, but this surprised me a little. I brushed it off until she excitedly tried to get me to try some charcuterie jelly she had. She did this by dipping her finger directly into the jar and holding it out for me to try. At this point, I felt pretty icky about it and jokingly said something like, "And get a taste of all that stuff we were touching earlier?" We were out and about, public transit, etc. She seemed a little embarrassed, but agreed that was a little gross, but still didn't wash her hands. This was the first day we knew each other. To this day, I have not witnessed her wash her hands with anything more than water, and even that takes me asking her to do it multiple times. She'll just go about her whole day, use the washroom, etc. without washing her hands. She loves finding treasures when we're walking around, like abandoned toys, household stuff, clothes, etc., even if they are visibly very dirty. She touches everything and anything, doesn't wash her hands. She also showers maybe twice a week, doesn't use soap there either. The only time she washes her hair or uses soap to clean herself is when I literally do it for her, which she says she enjoys. This wouldn't bother me so much if it weren't for a few things. She likes to cook for me. We love to dip our fingers into jars, and we drink straight from bottles instead of using silverware and cups. She touches my face a lot, and to be honest, she stinks. And on to my main point, she is always sick. She tends to be very sensitive and gets upset if she thinks that I'm implying that she's gross in any way, so I try to be as gentle as possible when encouraging her to clean herself. Eventually, I guess I got fed up when she was complaining about being sick again, and I told her that maybe the reason she keeps getting sick is because her hygiene isn't very good. She got very quiet and cried a bit, and now she thinks that I think she's disgusting and cries whenever I bring up washing hands or anything like that. She used to just laugh and brush it off, but now she seems to be really upset by it. I don't know what else to do. I feel like a jerk, but I don't think I did anything wrong either. Edit. I'm getting a lot of the same questions in the comments, so I'm adding the answers here. Have you ever asked why she doesn't want to wash or why she doesn't like soap? Yeah, and she usually just brushes it off with humor or starts crying. The little information I've been able to gather is that her parents were kind of neglectful by not really teaching her about this kind of stuff. She also used to be bullied for being the smelly kid at school, and past partners have called her gross. She claims to not like the soap I have, even though I have several different types: bar, liquid, unscented baby soap. You're gross too for being with her. Well, yeah, I feel gross when I'm around her. I always change my sheets after she leaves. I clean everything. I can usually get away with not eating what she cooks, as I'm vegetarian and she usually cooks with meat. The odd time she cooks something vegetarian, I'll insist on doing the veggie cleaning and chopping and dump it in the pan or whatever for her, so minimal touching on her part. I know a lot of people don't wash their hands often, but I've always washed mine frequently, and I sanitize my phone every day. I don't like feeling this way, but the way she reacts makes me feel like I'm overreacting. If I knew she was like this on the first date, why did I keep dating her? Why are you monitoring her bathroom habits so closely? You're a creep. It's one of those things that sort of builds up over time, and you don't really see how bad it is until you're deep into it. I knew her hygiene wasn't 100% right away, but I didn't know it was literally non-existent until we started spending prolonged periods of time at each other's places and using the bathroom with each other in the room versus alone with the door closed. Then I'd see that she didn't use soap when she took a shower. After going to the bathroom, she would just rinse her hands with water, etc. She complains that she doesn't like the soap I have, but I tell her to try the other kinds then. She must be okay with one of them, but no, she just hates using soap, period. Update. Most of you were really nice about it, but the consensus seemed to be that she needs therapy and I'm gross if I stay with her. And yeah, I feel gross, and I don't want to feel that way. I gave it a lot of thought, and I realized that my boundaries basically became non-existent in this relationship. I keep letting things slide that I really don't want to. I'm allowing myself to be uncomfortable for her sake, and I've done this in the past, but I don't want to do it anymore. So yeah, I decided I'd be very direct with her, and we either get on the same page or I'm done. So I plainly asked her why doesn't she like to wash herself. She cried, sobbed about how gross I think she is, but I asked her again. And eventually, she told me that she just likes when I do it for her. She wants to feel pampered and cared for. Honestly, I can't believe that I put up with this for so long. She's a really great girl otherwise, but yeah, this is a deal breaker for me. I told her this, and that I don't want to have to do this for her, and she just absolutely broke down. Seems to be a deal breaker for her too. She wants someone who will treat her like a pampered pet, so we are done. Anyways, thanks guys. I can't believe how this ended up. But I guess I'm happier for it. I will never ignore bad hygiene again. Am I the jerk for leaving a note on my neighbor's doorstep about his screaming kids? I've had many neighbors come and go, and I've never had any noise issues. However, last year a new neighbor moved in 3 units down. He's about 40 and has 3 kids under the age of 4. For months, I've listened to his kids scream and cry all day long, whether it be in his apartment or in the hallway. At first, I tried to ignore the behavior as I felt bad. It appeared he was a newly single father and was struggling. However, as time went on, it became clear that he just straight up lets his kids behave however they want. For example, when they shriek at the top of their lungs in the hallway or right outside my door, he never says, "Shh, let's be quiet," or anything at all. He just lets it happen without a peep. Additionally, I've come to realize the frequency and the volume of the screaming, crying, and shrieking is way beyond what's normal. I'd venture to say I hear it anywhere from 10 to 15 full-on tantrums every single day, all of which are ear-piercingly loud. And like I said, he does not say or do anything about these tantrums. It's now at the point where I find myself frustrated and annoyed in my own home all the time. Right now, I'm working on a paper in my apartment and I can't even concentrate because all I can hear are his kids. Because of this, I wrote a note, a polite note, and left it on his doorstep. Essentially, my note said that I sympathized with him, but the noise is out of control. I also stressed that I wanted to confront him directly first. I realize this sounds hypocritical since I left an anonymous note, rather than going straight to the management. Am I the jerk for leaving this note? Should I have handled it differently? You're the jerk. What do you think he's going to do with 3 kids under the age of 4? Spend the day elsewhere? Buy earplugs. OP. I don't know. Maybe tell his kid to be quiet when she's shrieking in the hallway at the top of her lungs for no reason? And apologize to the neighbors who opened their doors to see what the commotion was about? You assume he hasn't tried to quiet the kids and is also unaware of their screaming. OP. Considering he wears headphones all day while he games, no. I don't think he has the pleasure of hearing them scream all day like the rest of us do. How do you know? OP. Because he told my husband that he's an avid gamer and games pretty much all day long. He's also a tech geek and retired. He sold some sort of major software. You're the jerk. What do you think your note will accomplish? Tantrums are normal. OP. According to professionals, it's actually not normal for kids to have that many tantrums in a 24-hour time span. A kid's behavior has a direct relationship with their environment and how they are parented. It's not something that's 100% dependent on their natural temperament. Update. After reading the comments on my original post, I decided to remove the note before my neighbor saw it. I took what some of you said into consideration. Perhaps I just needed to be more patient. I decided if the noise issue escalated, then I'd do something. Otherwise, I'd just suck it up and use headphones like some of you advised. Well, today, his kids screamed and shrieked 4 times within a 1-hour period in the hallway. This was right by my door, about 2 feet away from my apartment. The 4th time it happened, I opened my door and said, "Please don't scream in the hallway, guys." Once I said this, he told me that his kids are allowed to scream in the hallway or anywhere else in the building that they feel like. I told him that actually, no, they're not, according to our lease. He then told me to suck it up and to contact management and to not talk to him. After our conversation, he told all 3 of his kids, "You can be as loud as you want in here," and then gave me a nasty look and proceeded to walk to the stairs. Once he said that, all 3 kids started squealing as loud as possible, on purpose. I sent management an email, and they're talking to him first thing in the morning. I know some of you suggested I do this in the first place. I wish I did. Update. I just went down to management office today to follow up with the manager. She said she had a meeting set for today at 1 with the resident. She immediately contacted him when I emailed her last night. But then today, he emailed her saying he could no longer make the 1 p.m. meeting and asked why he had to come down. He's in his apartment right now doing nothing. He doesn't work. She told him he's in violation of his lease and it's best if he comes down. Apparently, he didn't reply to her. She told me that if he doesn't come down to meet with her, she's going to draft an official lease violation letter and begin the process of eviction. I was blown away. She's a great manager. She told me that his reaction, telling me his kids are allowed to yell and telling the kids to keep yelling, is the reason for how she's handling this, not purely the noise complaint. She said she's horrified and disgusted that somebody would handle the situation that way. Her and I both agreed that it was strange he would encourage me to not speak to him and to contact management, rather than just simply telling his kids to stop screaming and appreciating I said something to him directly. After I talked with management, I saw my neighbor bring his kids to their mother's house. He's been in his apartment alone for the last few days and hasn't come out. He has all the blinds drawn. He posted the following status on social media: "I am the perfect success in all areas of my life." My husband follows him, which is how I know this. I think he's pretending he's not home to avoid both myself and management. I don't know what to make of it, and I don't plan on getting involved. My personal theory is that up until this year, he's never had to take care of his kids. A nanny has. So parenting is really new to him, and he has no clue as to what's normal and what's not. I think he likes making his kids happy, so he never says no or stop. I don't think he has a clue what he's doing. A few weeks ago, he was at the pool with them, and they were all shrieking, and he seemed so oblivious that it was a problem. It wasn't until he saw other parents saying, "Stop yelling," to their own kids that it seemed to click in his head, and they abruptly left the pool. I don't know why he couldn't translate that experience into, "Maybe my kids shouldn't yell in the hallways." More info about my neighbor. In general, he's a friendly guy, but really awkward. He's not very talkative and avoids social interaction. For example, if somebody else takes the elevator, he starts walking in the other direction towards the stairs. However, sometimes he's stuck socializing when he clearly doesn't want to, since we live in an apartment building. My husband is extremely outgoing and social. Me, not so much. So he's been able to have quite a few conversations with him over the past year. I only had an actual conversation with him once. I never assumed he would react the way he did. If anything, he seemed like the type who would be meek and embarrassed when confronted, so I was super surprised by his reaction. So was my husband. In addition to his post about being perfect, he made another post saying, "Overthinking is a disease." I honestly think the guy is just really socially inept. Update. I'm assuming management got in contact with him, either in person, over email, or via paper notice, and notified him that he violated his lease and he needs to fix the issue or else he'll be evicted. And I'm assuming he said okay, but I don't know for sure. I haven't heard his kids scream in the hallway since the incident, which is relieving. However, the other day we were both in the hallway at the same time. He had taken the stairs and I had taken the elevator and made direct eye contact. It was so awkward. Neither of us said anything, just unlocked our apartment doors in silence. Although, when he opened his door, his kids were screaming at the top of their lungs inside. I just laughed to myself and went inside. He can deal with the screaming in his apartment all he wants. I'm just glad I don't have to hear it in my hallway anymore. Hopefully. My brother-in-law called me the one that got away in his speech, and my husband is very hurt and it's all my fault. I don't know what to do. I think I've done serious damage to my marriage before it even began. I met my husband through his brother, Chris, who I had a crush on in college. I never was clingy and never acted on my feelings, and I never really allowed myself to get too close to him because I knew that my feelings weren't reciprocated. Chris knew, however, I had a crush on him, or at least he felt it. He would always say that I was girlfriend material and how he wouldn't want to lead me on. He wanted to have fun before that. He would say this to others, but even once to me. On 2 occasions, he would text me that he had feelings for me, only to apologize later and retract his words. But on Christmas 4 years ago, he texted me that he was in love with me and wanted to take me out on a date. He said he was done playing around and wanted a relationship. He was invited to a New Year's Eve party that my then roommate and I had. He told me he wanted to talk to me then. When he came to the party, he had his brother with him. Chris spent the night going out of his way to ignore me, and later I saw him making out with my roommate, and they spent the night in her room. I decided then and there that I would drop it. Enough was enough. Next morning, he told me that he had messed up and he apologized. During the party, I got to know his brother, who was the opposite of Chris. He was shy and hated attention, and he was just the best, and soon after that, he asked me out on a date. We are married now. Our wedding was last Wednesday. I want to make 2 things clear. I never went beyond a crush on Chris, and only after I fell for my husband that I understood what love is. He's everything to me, and I love him more than anything. I never told anyone about my crush, and when I met my husband, I didn't tell him either. Chris wasn't happy I was seeing his brother, and he's been cold towards me ever since. Even when it got serious between my husband and I. Chris held a speech on our rehearsal dinner, and he basically outed everything and ended with how he regretted not asking me out sooner and how he will always regret it. It was very awkward afterwards, and nobody talked, and on our wedding day, my husband did everything to act normal, and he made sure everything was as planned. But I could tell that he felt hurt and angry. After the party, he asked me if I loved Chris and if I dated him for that reason. I started crying because it absolutely wasn't true. We started dating and became friends, and I made sure it was him I wanted before committing, and I never loved anyone like I love my husband. I told him all this and more, and I apologized so much for not telling him everything. In the beginning, I thought it was my own private matter, and I didn't feel the need to discuss it with a then stranger to me. When our relationship evolved, I just never thought Chris was relevant, and my crush seemed like a silly thing. Now it's back to bite me in the rear. My husband is very sad and he barely talks to me. We're leaving for our honeymoon in 2 weeks. He barely speaks about it. The thing we both wanted for with so much anticipation and longing. I don't know what to do. I can't turn back in time, so I don't know what to do. Some people's families leave me dumbfounded. I think your husband will be fine eventually, but I don't think he will be fine with you spending time with his brother anytime soon, if ever. What a crappy dude to do that to his own brother and his wife. I'm sorry you got that as a brother-in-law. OP. To be honest, I never spend time with Chris, not without my husband there. As I said, Chris was probably not happy about our relationship and has been cold towards me ever since. We never discussed it. He never confronted me or mentioned it to me or my husband. Am I the jerk for living with my dad because he can afford a much better life for me than my mom? I'm 15, female. My mom always told me that my dad left as soon as he found out that my mom was pregnant. When I was 2, my mom married a man that has 3 kids, currently 21 male, 19 male, and 17 female. My stepdad was the only father figure I ever knew, and when I was younger, I wanted him to be my dad. But he never accepted me. I also have 4 half-siblings who are 12, 9, 9, and 7. My stepsister is definitely the favorite out of us older kids. It often seems like my stepdad only cares about her and the younger ones. My mom and stepdad don't have a lot of money, so it's pretty cramped. I have to share a room with my half-sisters. I always have to wear my stepsister's hand-me-downs, and we live in a bad neighborhood, so I go to a bad school. Sometimes we don't even have enough food. About a year ago, a woman contacted me on Instagram and told me that she thinks I might be her husband's daughter because he was dating my mom a few months before I was born. She told me that my mom ghosted my dad shortly after she got pregnant and moved to a different state. He tried to find her, but he couldn't. I didn't believe her at first, but after she sent me a picture of my mom and her husband, I decided to ask my mom. She confessed and told me that she left my dad because she didn't want to commit to a relationship. I continued talking to my dad and stepmom, and they decided to come visit me. After I told him what it's like at home, he told me that he would fight for custody and the court would probably listen to me if I said I wanted to live with him. I wasn't sure at the time because I didn't just want to abandon my mother. I told him I would think about it and let him know. After thinking about it, I decided I'd rather live with him. My stepmom always wanted kids, but she's infertile and she already loves me a lot even though we've only met a few times. They also have a lot more money than my mom, so I could have my own room and new clothes, and I could go to a much better school. I know my reasons are really selfish, but I would have a much better life with him. After I told him, he went to court and got primary custody of me. My mom's been giving me the silent treatment ever since, but yesterday when I was packing, she yelled at me and called me selfish for abandoning her and my little siblings as soon as my dad showed up, and said that if my dad loved me so much, he should have tried to find me earlier. I think she's the selfish one. She kept me away from my dad for the first 14 years of my life. Honestly, I think she's just mad because she won't have anyone to watch her kids anymore, and because my dad's been paying her $1,000 every month since he found me, and she won't have that anymore. Everyone except my younger half-brother and stepbrother are acting like I don't exist. My dad is going to pick me up on Sunday, and honestly, I can't wait. Edit. Some people are confused about the child support situation. My dad's been paying for the last year, not my whole life. Not the jerk. You're 15. You can choose where you want to live. Your mother ran away from your father because she was afraid of a committed relationship and then lied to you about it for your entire life. And she has the nerve to call you selfish? I think you're right. She's angry that she's losing her live-in babysitter. I think she also has a bruised ego because you chose him instead of her. But what did she expect? She's been lying to you your entire life and has stuck you with a stepfather that doesn't care about you. Also, the court would not have given him primary custody without good reason. You do what you need to for you. Am I the jerk for telling my mother I don't want her at my wedding? I, 21 female, am getting married to my fiancé next week. My fiancé, 23 male, let's call him Wesley. My mother has, since I was little, had severe OCD, which came along with being a huge germaphobe, such as making me wash my hands and feet 3 times with a Dove soap bar, nothing else or they're not clean. Anytime I got into the house, like water, soap, lather, and rinse, 3 times in a row in front of her. Even if I just stepped outside for a second, you had to wash. Understandably, it's a bit of a pain, but I love her and she can't help her condition. Another thing, at 11 p.m. every night, she has to walk around the house and flick each light switch 10 times, and then disinfect each and every switch because she touched them. She's been very accepting of Wesley and treated him like he was her own son, cooked for him, let him stay, and generally just lovely. When I told him about the washing hands and feet thing, he was also very understanding and applied the method. Last year, I told my mother about the wedding, and she was very happy in the beginning, until after we started making preparations and she started telling me what to do. For instance, for the venue, me and Wesley planned to go to this beautiful place that had ruins of a castle next to the sea during the summer. We only had an hour slot for the ceremony, to which after we would be moving to a hotel to have a nice meal and dance. My mother advised me to change the venue because she didn't like the fact we chose somewhere outside for the ceremony because no one would be clean. I argued it was what we wanted and that it's our wedding, not hers. She then went silent about it for the following time after that, didn't mention it again. When choosing my wedding dress, I invited her along and she argued with me that other people will have been in them so they're not clean, and then forced me to not even wear the wedding dress just to have the assistant hold them up in front of me. My wedding is now next week, and yesterday my mother called me and asked for me to change the venue as there will be no sinks so people can wash their hands and feet. To which I replied, I'm not having over 70 guests individually wash their hands and feet 3 times, especially with the slot we have. It would take a huge chunk of everything. She started yelling at me that everything will go wrong and that she's disappointed in me because I should know the rules. I refused to change my venue as it would be difficult to find another in such short time, and me and Wesley have wanted this place for a while. So she told me she will sort something out, and a few hours ago she sent me a screenshot from eBay of someone selling 5 big water tanks and a box full of Dove soap from her cupboard. I rang her up to inform her I think it's best if she didn't attend, as the wishes she wants are impacting my wedding. She ended the call without saying anything and then posted on Facebook I was no daughter of hers and that I didn't love her. Am I the jerk? Update. The wedding was yesterday. I absolutely had the best time of my life and have made the best memories. I took people's advice, and I had told my friends, bridesmaids and maid of honor, about the situation, to which they helped me create a Zoom link that one of my friends would host for her to watch. I sent her this link early in the morning so she could see it in time for the ceremony at 5 p.m. She left this on read. She never attended the call. We noticed 6 out of 7 people had canceled last minute, to which when they were questioned by other people who knew them as to why, they replied saying they wouldn't want to watch me get married due to how I treated my mother, influenced by my mother's out-of-context Facebook post. After the ceremony, we went to the hotel as planned, and then during the dance, one of my mom's friends pulled me aside and asked as to why I was so disrespectful to my mother. From this, I felt extremely guilty, but I explained my side of the story, which she didn't believe. So she then left early and whispered things to other people who noticeably left earlier. Around 3 left due to her gossip. During the night, I sent her photos of which people who attended took and what I took, of little family photos and me at the altar, walking down the aisle, a photo of Wesley crying when seeing me in the wedding dress. She left these on read. The highlight of my night was my dad telling me that my mother tried to give a wedding gift, but he checked what was in the box before he came and it was a bar of Dove soap. So he just left it at home. Made me chuckle a little. After the wedding, me and Wesley stayed a night in the hotel. We had the party and meal, and I received a text from my maid of honor of a screenshot of a Facebook post my mother had made, a quote she posted. Then when I go to check this Facebook post, I see that she has blocked me on Facebook so that I couldn't even see her profile anymore. This was the final straw, so I texted her a long paragraph, basically saying how I love her, but she needs psychiatric help and therapy and meds. I also said how the Facebook posts were unnecessary when we both know I retracted the invite as I was looking out for her, not because I didn't love her. Additionally, I said whether she realized it or not, she was losing me as a daughter, and it didn't have to be like this. I also said it's now her choice to take the help she needs or not, because I can't force her to improve her own mentality. She left this on read too. The situation has been taken way too far, but I can't and will not enable and feed into her compulsions and obsessions anymore. I love her, but I can't take this behavior anymore. Thank you for your support. I'm grateful for your advice. Sold out means sold out, Jennifer. What a weekend. A holiday weekend, which sucked times 3. We were sold out for 3 days in a row. It's 10:30 p.m. on a Saturday. I'm the only one working, and there were lots of people asking for things all night, so I was up and down the elevator bringing stuff to rooms whenever I had a minute. I'm going to refer to myself as Jane here for anonymity and brevity. I got a noise complaint, pretty run-of-the-mill. I had to run a pack and play up to that room anyway, so I went up and spoke to the parents. They had an infant, a little baby who was crying. They apologized and said they were doing the best they could. They were clearly embarrassed by the situation, but hey, it happens. I walked back down the hall and was waiting for the elevator when Jennifer opens her door, sticks her head out, and rudely says, "Is there a kid on this floor?" Well, it's a holiday weekend, so most people do have their kids here, yes. Maybe that sounds sarcastic in writing, but the question was so sudden that I had to think for a second. It most certainly wasn't sarcastic in real life. "Well, I didn't pay to hear kids screaming. I paid to sleep. I'm coming down to the desk to get a different room." I understand, and I'm sorry, but we're all… And she went back into her room and slammed the door. I went down to the desk again and checked a couple more guests in before Jennifer got her time in the spotlight. She said, "Well, are you going to move me?" I apologize, but I don't have a room to move you to. We're all sold out. "You're not sold out. I just watched you check 2 people in." I hate when people say that, as if they either have no concept of what a reservation is or don't care, even though they typically have their own reservations in the system. Ma'am, we are sold out. I can offer a discount for the noise because I understand it's disruptive, but I can't move you to another room. "What's your name?" "Jane." "Well, Jane, I am never staying at this hotel again." "Okay." "I bet that makes you happy, doesn't it?" She stalked off towards the elevator before turning around, and I had a line of people in front of me and shouting, "The Shampton Inn would have switched my room." "Okay, well, go to the Shampton Inn then. We're sold out." She started screaming at me, but I ignored her in favor of helping the next guest in line. She eventually went back to her room. Later on, she came to the desk to get an extra key, and she stared at me in silence. Her eyes were filled with pure anger. I hate when people stare at me like that. You won't intimidate me. I'll stare back at you. You ain't special. So I stared right back at her until she decided to say something. "If I was screaming in my room, you'd knock on my door and tell me to stop. That's what you should have done about those kids." "Yeah, I would tell you to stop, because you're an adult and know better. You're asking me to tell an infant to be quiet?" "No, I'm telling you to make the parents shut it up. And it's not an infant, you jerk. It's a bunch of kids screaming and jumping on the bed." "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were peeking into everyone's room." "I wasn't. You don't have to look into someone's room to tell if they have a kid or an infant." She got on the elevator, turned around, and shouted, "You moron!" "Okay, jerk." I was so mad. My coworker had come in by that time and heard the end of it. He kicked me out and said he'd take care of the laundry and emails because I was so worked up about it. If I'd stayed, I would have said something that I definitely would have regretted. Sent a recap email with everything that was said, which goes to the front desk, FOM and GM. My coworker told my manager about it the next morning, and she was livid. She waited all morning for this woman to come down so she could go off on her, but she never did. In my manager's words, that jerk was too chicken to show her face. She snuck out. But she did apparently call corporate, and they opened a customer care case on me so they could investigate the incident. The manager showed me this woman's statement. The gist of it was, "There was a child crying, which I didn't pay to hear. If my child were crying, I would simply take him outside to sit until he decided to stop crying and bothering other people. The employee refused to ask the family to quiet down and was very rude. If I was screaming in my room, she would have asked me to stop, which is standard. She didn't hold this family to that. She handled the situation incorrectly. Jane, if this is your first job, you have a lot to learn. If it's not, wow." Jerk, this ain't my first rodeo. If it were my first job, I probably would have been timid and afraid of the yelling and insults. Nah, I've seen this crap before, and I don't cut slack for jerks. Also, I understand that kids can be loud and annoying. Taking an infant outside until it decides to stop crying? Infants don't understand the concept of timeout, though that would probably be the polite thing to do if the baby wouldn't stop crying for long enough. To be clear though, the infant had already stopped crying by the time I got on the elevator. Jennifer just didn't give a hoot because she'd rather be mad. I'm always willing to help guests, but as soon as they insult me, it's over. I'm done. You won't get anything from me. Go back to your room or get out. Jennifer is now on our do not rent list. The property manager called to talk to the FOM about the investigation. She initially was against me. My manager, however, said, "If someone yells and calls one of my employees a moron in front of a room full of other guests, I think that whatever they decide to say next is justified." Oh, well, I didn't know she yelled or called her a moron. Of course not. Why would she make herself look bad when calling corporate? Property manager was on my side after that. Case closed. Buzz off, Jennifer. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.